Hello and welcome to Sex Pact. Today I'm gonna start a new series. What if Deku was the son of Dante? Part 1. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
A long time ago, there was a war between the human world and the underworld. Humanity had lost all hope when the Prince of Darkness Mundus invaded with his hordes of demons. When all hope seemed to be lost, one demon took up arms against his own kind and fought for the humans. His name was Sparda. He was the greatest warrior of the underworld and not even. He alone faced the armies of the underworld and pushed them back into their domain. Sparda used the blood of a priestess to seal the gates of the underworld. He then sealed Mundus away on Mallet Island, but at the cost of his powers. With his power gone, Sparda walked the earth for 2,000 years as a protector of humanity, until he met a woman that changed his life and gave him happiness. Her name was Eva. From the moment he met her, he fell in love with her as she accepted him and saw the good and kindness in him. A few years later, Sparda and Eva got married and lived together happily. He and Eva later had twin boys, Virgil and Dante. Sparda was happy that he got to experience what it meant to be human, but nothing good lasts forever. 7 years later, after the birth of Virgil and Dante, Sparda and his family were attacked by demons who were sent by Mundus, who noticed the seal was weakening to kill Sparda and his family. This led to the death of Eva as she protected her sons while Sparda was trying to fight them off but was too late to reach Eva. Sparda was able to get his sons out of there but was gravely wounded as a result, further weakening him. Both Virgil and Dante, who witnessed the death of their mother, vowed vengeance on that day. Sparda, who realized that his time was running out, trained Virgil and Dante with both his legendary weapons for 7 years. The Yamato was given to Virgil and the rebellion went to Dante. Eventually, Sparda had reached his final moments with his sons. He gave them his amulets and told them to follow their own paths. After Sparda had passed, they buried him beside their mother in Redgrave and went on the hunt for the demon responsible for the death of both their parents. A year after burying their father, at the age of 15, Virgil began to change after he and Dante left together. He began absorbing the energy from demons that he killed, which led him to craving more power. The brothers had a falling out when Dante found out what Virgil was doing, as both of them fought over their ideals. They fought as if they were the bitterest of enemies, like they took some twisted pleasure in fighting each other. The victor was Virgil. As he was about to deliver the finishing blow, Dante transformed into his demon form but was not strong enough to defeat Virgil. After the battle, both brothers went their separate ways, until 3 years later when they met again at the age of 18, teaming up with the Walking Arsenal Lady to stop her father Arkham, who wanted their blood and amulet to awaken the Temenengrua tower that serves as a portal to the demon world. Virgil and Dante defeated Arkham and stopped his plans. After that, they had one more battle in the tower in which Dante came out the victor, but lost his brother as Virgil fell to the underworld. After the battle, Dante started his business as a devil hunter and opened his business Devil May Cry to hunt demons and protect people. 4 years later, Dante was approached by the bewitching devil Trish, who told him that the holding Mundus was breaking on Mallet Island. Dante accepted the job and went to the island to stop Mundus. It was there that he ran into a servant of Mundus called Nello Angelo and fought him as he tried to stop Dante from resealing Mundus, but he failed. After Dante defeated Nello Angelo, he discovered that it was his brother he was fighting all along. For failing Mundus, Nello was sent back to the underworld and was kept there until further notice. Dante finally came face to face with Mundus after he found out Trish was working for him and used her as a hostage to try to defeat him. Dante freed Trish and used the amulet he got from Nello to unlock his father's greatest sword, the Sparda, which was in its sealed state, the Force Edge, and used it to battle Mundus. Dante defeated Mundus and sealed him again. Mundus' defeat freed Virgil from his control and was finally free again, but he was still trapped in the underworld, so he waited patiently for a portal back to the human world. 3 years later, Dante was called on again to stop a madman by the name of Arius, who wanted to open a portal to the demon world and absorb the power of a demon that rivaled Mundus. Its name was Argisax. Dante joined forces with Lucia, a woman with a complicated origin, who wanted to kill Arius. Arius was successful in gathering the items required to open the portal and was waiting for the day of an eclipse to finally complete the ritual. After Arius opened the portal, he was defeated by Dante, but he realized that he couldn't close the portal until Argisax was defeated. Dante and Lucia argued who would go and fight Argisax, and it led to a coin toss in which Lucia later figured out that it was a double-headed coin. Unknown to them, Virgil sensed the portal and used it to leave the underworld as it closed, with Dante still in the underworld fighting Argisax. A few months after Virgil got out, Dante returned as well, and both brothers met up and talked about what happened. Virgil told Dante that after their battle in the tower, When he fell to the underworld, he immediately ran into Mundus, who defeated him and corrupted him, turning him into Nello Angelo. Dante finally realized that while Virgil went power-hungry, all he wanted was to be able to protect what he cared about, and that he never wanted to feel helpless again when their mother died. Both brothers went their separate ways as Dante returned to his calling as a devil hunter and Virgil, who wanted to find a new way of life. 2 years later, after Virgil went on his own path, he met a woman by the name of Inko Midoriya and they became friends. That friendship later turned to love as they both got together a year after they had met. Virgil later told Inko about his history and what he had done. Inko was shocked and a little bit afraid, but she put it aside and accepted Virgil for who he was and never judged him for the choices he made. 2 years later, Virgil and Inko had a child, a boy who also carries the blood of Sparda, a child who will grow up to become a legend. This is not a story about the sons of Sparda. This is a story about Sparda's grandson Izuku Nero Midoriya, and this is the story of how he becomes the world's greatest hero. I was taught early on that not all men are made equal. You see, about 80% of people in this day and age have quirks, which are powers of some kind. The origin of quirks is unknown, so one of the earliest was a glowing baby in Hong Kong. I wanted to be a hero because of All Might, the greatest hero to have ever lived, but Faith had other ideas. This led to the creation of a new profession in the age of heroes. One person stood out from the crowd and became a symbol of peace. Because I had an extra joint in my toe, the doctors told me at the age of 4 that I wouldn't have a quirk. My life sucked, and I was devastated and lost all hope. My former best friend led the charge, and the kids at school teased, avoided, ignored, and occasionally beat me up. After a year, Izuku was returning home with his mother after an outing. For the past year, whenever she went to work, her co-workers would remark on how strange her son was. She told herself she wouldn't be a mother if she couldn't support her son's dreams, so she didn't let it bother her. She knew her son needed all the help he could get. They chose to walk through the park on their way home. It was very quiet as they went. The light began to flicker, and then she heard a growl. She began to move quickly with Izuku as the sound approached, and she picked him up and fled in the hopes that they would escape the pursuing creature. The creature caught up to them, standing on all 4 limbs while it growled. As it searched for the demonkind's traitor, the demon screamed, "Where is he? I smell the blood of Sparda, where is that traitor?" As it approached Izuku and Inko, its gaze landed on them. He sniffed the air and turned to face the boy. With a low growl, the demon approached them while Inko was holding Izuku and said, "You little boy, you smell just like him, just like that accursed Sparda." After the demon launched itself at them, they were able to get away and begin to run, but the demon caught up to them and blocked their escape route. It then struck Inko with its bladed claws, sending her flying back and hitting the ground so hard that she was knocked unconscious. Izuku then ran to his mother's side. As Izuku tried to wake up his mother, tears welled up in his eyes and he said, "Mum, Mum, please wake up please." The demon approached them, wearing a sick, maniacal grin and a hateful expression. As it approached them, the demon released its kill intent and declared, "I'm going to kill you, boy. With your death we will have our vengeance on Sparda, but first I'll kill that woman before I kill you." Izuku stood guardedly in front of his mother, trembling with fear but ignoring it because he wanted to protect her. "I won't let you hurt her," Izuku said, still trembling, and the demon laughed. The demon said, "And how are you going to stop me?" Before it could get close, it swung its claws, severing Izuku's arm and leg. When he was on his knees, the demon kicked him hard, sending him reeling backward while he clutched his stomach in agony. Izuku watched in horror as the demon stood over his mother, threatening to kill her. "Say goodbye to her, boy," the demon said, raising its claws to finish her. However, as it reached for the kill, its claws stopped inches from her face because the demon sensed a strong demonic aura. The demon looked at Izuku and saw him emanating with power, saying, "What is this power? It feels like death is looming over me." The aura surrounding him took the form of an armored figure, Nero's DMC-4 Devil Trigger, and it backed up in terror as Izuku stood up and gazed at him with glowing red eyes. As the ghostly figure imitated his motions to seize the demon, Izuku extended his right arm. Izuku began crushing the demon after it struggled to free itself and was repeatedly slammed into the ground. It screamed in agony as it was done repeatedly. Izuku continued to squeeze the demon while saying in a distorted voice, "You will not hurt her." Hearing cries of agony, Inko started to awaken. When she did, she saw the ghostly figure hovering over Izuku and the demon that had attacked her being restrained by the spectral arm. She also noticed that Izuku's entire right arm had changed, DMC-4 Devil Bringer. Izuku crushed the demon and let it fall to the ground, but as it looked at Izuku, it noticed a horned figure standing where Izuku was. She watched in disbelief as her son continued to slam it into the ground, and then she noticed that his arm was also absorbing the demon's energy, adding to his own as the spectral figure grew in size. So this is the power of a descendant of Sparda. I may have failed, but others will come for you and they will end you. Ha ha ha, enjoy what little time you have left, boy, said the demon as it became dust. When Izuku's transformation disappeared and he hit the ground, Inko hurried to her son and held him while crying. She noticed that all of his wounds had healed and that he was just exhausted when she held him, and a blue light covered his arm, returning it to normal. Even though Inko was aware that a demon had attacked them, she didn't initially believe what Izuku's father had told her until they were attacked a year before Izuku was born. Her lover then told her the truth about him and his actions, but she still loved him and accepted him for who he was. He advised her to call this number and say, "Devils never cry," if Izuku ever regained his abilities before he left. Additionally, he instructed her to give Izuku his sword Yamato once he had mastered his abilities. A year after Izuku's birth, he vanished. After taking Izuku home, Inko placed him on his bed while she searched for the number to call. When she did, a man's voice on the phone said, "Hello, devil may cry, how can I help you?" "Devils never cry," was the password that Inko said, and the phone's voice intensified. He said, "All right, miss, how can I help you?" "My name is Inko Midoriya and I'm calling because I need your help with my son," she replied. "So what do you want from me? You want me to protect him?" he asked. "What happened? Did something attack him?" Inko asked, and then told him everything that had happened. Saying that he was shocked was an understatement. She said, "Yes, Virgil told me to call should his powers awaken." He almost fell out of his chair when she mentioned Virgil's name. He asked hysterically, "Hold on, did you say Virgil, as in a guy with white hair and a permanent scowl on his face, is that him?" Inko said, "Yes, that's him." "What's his relationship with the boy?" asked the man. She said, "He's Izuku's father," during the brief silence. He laughed uncontrollably as he said, "Ha ha ha ha, wait, hold on, you are telling me Sir Scowsalot had a kid?" Inko questioned, "What's so funny about that?" "Well, for one thing, I thought Virgil was never gonna get laid. Hell, I thought he was probably gay since he turned down every woman that approached him. I mean, they practically threw themselves at him. Wow, I can't believe a woman managed to melt his stone-cold heart. You must really be one hell of a woman. So how's my brother doing these days?" he replied. "I don't know, he disappeared a year after Izuku was born. He told me should he ever awaken his powers I should call this number," she replied. "Okay, where are you? I'll come and help with the situation," he replied. She stated, "We reside in Japan." "Japan, huh? Alright, I'll be there in a week. I'll call when I'm in Japan. I look forward to seeing my nephew and what he can do. It's gonna be one hell of a party," said the man. After hanging up, Inko said, "Okay, I'll see you in a week, thank you." She then went to check on Izuku and discovered that he was still asleep, so she sat down next to him and kept an eye on him. "OTHERWHERE," the man Inko was talking to said, "So my big bro had a kid, huh? Well, that was unexpected. Call Lady and Trish, tell them I'm gonna be in Japan for a while. I'll send them the address of where I'm gonna be staying for a while, and while you are at it please order me some pizza and put it on my tab," he replied. Another man's voice said, "Really? How are you still alive if all you eat is pizza and strawberry sundae? Hey, don't diss the pizza, it's mankind's greatest creation, now just get to it please, Morrison." "Alright, Dante, if you say so," Morrison remarked. "I wonder what Virgil's child will be like." "Well, I'm going to find out, I just hopes he's different from his father," Dante replied. Izuku awoke in an unfamiliar location and looked around, asking, "Where am I? What's going on? Why is it so dark?" He stood up and began to move around until he saw a blue light. As he approached the light, he saw a man sitting with his legs crossed near the blade. His eyes opened, and he turned to face Izuku. The sword was a silver katana with a white handle and an elaborate bronze guard. It had a yellow string attached to the bottom. Looking at Izuku, the man said, "So you have finally come, my boy." The man was tall, had cyan blue eyes that seemed to be able to pierce your soul, white hair, and a muscular build similar to Scott Adkins. As he noticed the shocked expression on Izuku's face, Sparda said, "I see you are a little confused. Let me introduce myself. I am the Dark Knight Sparda, your grandfather." "My grandfather," Izuku said, still in disbelief. When Izuku realized, "Wait, my mom, I have to make sure she's okay," he said frantically, "But how are you here? The last thing I remember was me and my mom." As he read what Izuku was about to say, Sparda said, Whoa, calm down, your mom is fine, she's sitting right beside you waiting for you to wake up." As for where we are in your mind, Sparda said nonchalantly. Sparda told Izuku about his entire history of sealing the demon world, his wife, and his two sons, Virgil and Dante, and how he prepared them to face what was coming for them. I know, freaky, right? Now listen to what I have to say. I don't have much time here, so let me finish before you ask your questions, he said. Sparda looked at Izuku gravely and said, all right, kid, your powers weren't supposed to awaken yet, but now that they have, you will need to learn to control it so that it doesn't consume you and leave you with the desire for more power. Izuku stated, his eyes blazing with resolve, I know that, I'm never going to let it consume me. I'll push myself to the breaking point if that's what it takes to control my power. I expect nothing less from my grandson. Alright, due to fact that you absorbed the demon's energy. The demon blood in you is more potent now. That means your abilities are on par with my son's when they first awakened. That also explains why your entire right arm is completely transformed. So let me give you some advice. You have to be careful how you handle demonic energy. It can corrupt you to the point of no return, so be very careful, Sparda said to Izuku. Well, my time is almost up, so without further ado I want you to take the sword. It's your birthright after all. I left as a keepsake for Virgil and now he left it to you. So use it well, you can call on it when you need it. As he began to wane, Sparda spoke. Guess this is it. Goodbye, Izuku. I know that you will do great things in the future. Oh, and when you see Dante, tell him I'm sorry I couldn't save his mother. I never wanted this life for him, but tell him I'm proud of the man he has become. I'll be watching over you and my sons. Take care, he said as he disappeared entirely. Izuku couldn't forget what Sparda had told him when he woke up and saw his mother by his side. He vowed to be someone who stood up for those who couldn't defend themselves. Izuku's mother was taken aback by his appearance when she woke up. His freckles had disappeared, leaving him with a smooth face and attractive features, and his green hair had turned white but still had a hint of green at the tip. Izuku told his mother everything that Sparda had told him. Inko was taken aback, but she dismissed it. Izuku also told his mother about his father, explaining that despite his power-hungry tendencies, all he wanted to do was safeguard the things that were important to him. After a week had passed since the assault on Izuku and Inko. They were on high alert in case something else happened, but nothing happened after that. Izuku returned to school as if nothing had happened. The other students didn't recognize him because his hair had turned white and his freckles had disappeared. During lunch, Bakugo approached him and was taken aback to learn that it was Izuku. Bakugo inquired, what happened to you, Deku? You decided to dye your hair white so people would notice you. You really are pathetic. Izuku simply ignored him without responding to anything he said. As the other children listened to their conversation, they said things like, you see that he's ignoring Bakugo, is he crazy? And, he must have a death wish. While Izuku continued to ignore him, Bakugo yelled, are you listening to me, you quirkless loser? Bakugo was about to strike Izuku when he raised his hand to make explosions, but he was startled when he caught it while the explosion was still going off, flipping him onto the ground and pinning his arm behind his back. His reflexes and reaction time were far superior to anyone else's because his devil blood had awakened. He gripped Bakugo's arm and gave him a slight twist, which made him grunt in agony. Izuku released his arm as the teacher entered the room and instructed the class to play more carefully because she didn't want them to get into trouble on the last day of classes. Izuku went home after school, and upon entering, he noticed his mother conversing with someone. When he noticed Izuku, the man stopped talking. So this is Izuku. It's finally nice to meet you, kid. The name's Dante, replied Dante. Izuku remarked nonchalantly, you're Dante, my uncle, right? Izuku shocked Dante by saying, you look just like Grandpa. Dante looked over at Inko and asked, how do you know about my old man? Did you tell him? Inko nodded her head no. It would be an understatement to say that Dante was shocked when Izuku told him about his encounter with Sparda and how he told him about his past. So he said he's sorry, huh? Dante let out a sigh. Part of me always blamed his for not being able to save her, and all this time the guilt was eating at him and I never noticed. Some son I am, Dante said. Well, kid, I'm going to teach you how to control your powers, and it will be brutal and bloody, Dante said, turning to face Izuku. Seriously, you are going to wish you were dead by the time I'm done with you. I'm ready. I'm going to push myself hard if I have to, said Izuku. Alright kid, we start tomorrow. We are going to need a place where no one can disturb us, so I'll look into it, so get some shut-eye. Dante told him. I see my brother in him, that's why I'm here, so he doesn't make mistakes he regrets, but you've done a fine job raising him. I know you miss my brother. Hell, I don't know where he is, but he prepared for when his powers awakened, so I know he cares for his son. I'll do my best and watch over him and keep him safe, so don't worry, he said to Inko. The following day, to start his training, Dante led Izuku to an abandoned warehouse he had discovered. "Uncle Dante, where are we? This place looks horrible, it's a serious eyesore," Izuku stated. "Quit complaining, we're here to help you control your power, not to take an all-expensive paid vacation," Dante joked. "Alright, I'm going to need you to change your arm," said Dante. "I don't know how to do that, the last time I did it was sort of on instincts," Izuku replied. "Seriously, okay then summon Yamato, I'm going to show you what it can do," said Dante to him. "You don't know how to do that either, do you?" Dante inquired, observing Izuku's sheepish expression. Looks like we are gonna have to figure out how to jump-start your powers then. Alright, drop and give me 50 inches, Dante said with a malevolent smirk. Izuku said, perplexed, What do you mean 50? I'm just a kid. I thought we were going to do something like testing my reflexes or meditating to focus my power. Why I'm doing 50 push-ups? Izuku complained. Izuku followed Dante as he paused and said, come with me to the roof. This is what we're going to do, Dante said as they reached the roof and stood on its edge. He then grabbed Izuku and threw him off the roof. Izuku cried out, what the hell? As he was flung off. For Izuku, everything happened in slow motion as he quickly reached the ground. Thump thump thump, he was on the verge of hitting the ground, and his heart was racing. Suddenly, as the ghostly figure reappeared, his arm changed and his demonic aura flared. He protected himself by breaking his arm as he struck the ground, sending a tiny shockwave through the air. His aura subsided as he exited the crater, and he fainted. Dante showed up next to him and carried him inside while he waited for him to awaken. After an hour, Izuku started to stir and then recalled what had happened, saying, what happened to me? Izuku shouted at Dante, you threw me off a roof, who does that? Izuku kept shouting at Dante, saying, if what you were planning didn't work, I could have died. Dante smiled and remarked, but you didn't die, which is a win-win situation for us, right? When Dante noticed Izuku's disbelieving expression, he asked, besides that fall wouldn't have killed you, what you thought I'd throw off with out of caution? You needed a life or death situation to activate your powers just like you did last time, so throwing you off the roof was the best way to stimulate that. Besides, it was either that or stabbing you, but I'm glad it worked out in the end, Dante said with a smile. Dante's voice was surprised as he said, it's mind-boggling that you triggered at such a young age. I also wanted to see your power with my own eyes. Izuku questioned, what do you mean I triggered, what does it do? The Devil Trigger is a special power possessed by demons and demonic hybrids which allows us to release our full supernatural potential, stated Dante. Dante went on to say, it also allows us to assume our true form, which amplifies our physical and magical attributes. Izuku exclaimed, wow, that's awesome. I can do that too, right? Before realizing what he was doing. Is that why you wanted me to exercise? Because my body isn't ready for my yet. Exactly, your case is special, kid. You awakened your power earlier than expected, so your body isn't ready for it yet, but don't worry, I'll whip you in shape, said Dante. Izuku sincerely apologized for getting upset with you. I got so excited about finally getting my powers that I started acting like Bakugo, Izuku sadly stated. Dante remarked, your mom told me about it. She said it was your friend who led the charge of everything, and that people ignored you, pushed you around, and beat you, Dante said angrily. I know you don't consider him a friend anymore. Those kind of people think others are beneath them because they have power. The only way to take care of people like that is to put them in their place. So while I'm training you, no showing off to others. If they think you're beneath them, just ignore it, because the time will come when you will show them how wrong they were about you. Got it, said Dante. You got it, Uncle Dante. I'm gonna give it my all, and I'm going to be someone who saves people with a smile on his face, just like All Might, Izuku said with a grin. Dante said gravely, good, that's what I want to see. Now drop and give me 100. As he began the push-ups, Izuku remarked, you had to ruin the moment, didn't you? This marked the start of what Izuku subsequently referred to as his hell years. Since Izuku first met and began training with his uncle Dante 9 years ago, a lot has transpired. Izuku met Trish during his first year of training. She was Dante's business partner and girlfriend. In order to at least earn money to settle his debts and advance Devil May Cry as an organization, Izuku had advised Dante to accept the position of hero. As a result, Dante, who went by the moniker Redgrave, became well known in the hero industry. When a Hell Gate materialized in New York City during a parade, 3 years after Dante began training Izuku demons, they were made public. Dante stopped it and later made his company, Devil May Cry, public. Dante agreed and kept training Izuku after Izuku told him not to disclose their relationship because he wasn't yet ready to handle it. Nothing noteworthy happened to Izuku over the years. His classmates continued to believe he was strange, but he largely disregarded them. The true issue was one Katsuki Bakugo. He continued to bother Izuku after Izuku knocked him to the ground years ago, constantly teasing him, but Izuku simply shrugged it off and went about his business. Izuku was 13 when Dante took him on a small demon hunt. He had his sword, a Nero's DMC-4 blade, called the Red Queen, and a special revolver called Blue Rose, that had an over and under barrel design that allowed it to fire 2 magnum rounds with each pull of the trigger. Inko was initially concerned, but Dante reassured her that it would be a good learning experience for him and that he would be right by his side to show him what to do. Izuku was initially terrified, but he killed the demons after a short while. In addition to mastering his Devilbringer arm, which enables him to call forth a Yamato and direct his demonic energy into his weapons, Izuku's fighting style with Red Queen consists of wide sweeping strikes with 360-degree spins. Following his acquisition of Yamato, Dante taught Izuku the Dark Slayer style, which enables him to teleport to a new location during combat. Izuku also learned hand-to-hand combat techniques, which enhance his fighting style whether he is using his Devilbringer or not. The town of Fortuna Castle. Izuku is rushing to the opera house, where a ceremony is being held by the Order of the Sword. For a few months, Izuku has been working undercover for the Order of the Sword, a religious group that honors his grandfather Sparda for defending humanity against demons. A few months ago, Izuku and Dante discussed the organization and devised a strategy. Retrograde Izuku saw Dante's bike outside his house as he was returning from school, and as he got on it, he overheard Dante conversing with his mother. Inko told Dante, no, he can't go, he's still too young for all this. Nothing will happen to him, Inko. He's ready for this, it's his legacy. I already have someone else in the organization, but I need him to execute the plan, Dante said as he attempted to persuade Ink. Then why can't they do it instead? Izuku doesn't need to put himself in danger for this, Inko replied. If it goes sideways I'll pull him out, nothing will happen to him. Look, I know you worry about him, but he will be fine. Me, Trish and Lady have prepared him for this. Plus he can take anything that comes his way, he's far stronger than anyone in that organization. He'll be fine, I promise. I won't be asking this if I didn't believe he could do it, but you have to believe in him too, said Dante. I do believe in him, I'm just worried he's growing up too fast. He doesn't have any friends, all he does is train and study, that's all he does. I just want him to have a sense of normalcy in his life, said Inko. The kids at his school aren't friend material, they made fun of him, treated him like a plague because he didn't have a quirk, and it was his so-called friend that led the charge of everything that happened to him. Once he's out of that place and is in Ua, there will be people who accept him for who he really is, and that's a hero. I know he'll be a great hero, he has the heart of one and he will do great things. He's just as hard-headed as his father. When they set their minds on something they won't rest until it's done. I want him to be careful because he will have people who care about him, Inko said while weeping. Hey mom, I'm home. I saw Uncle D's bike. Where is he? Izuku said as he entered, acting as though he hadn't heard their conversation. Dante inquired, in here kid, how's school treating you? Dante nodded when Izuku said, boring as always, so why are you here? You need me for a job, right? End of flashback. As he kept running, Izuku remarked, I hope she isn't upset that I'm late for her singing. He heard screaming on his way to the opera house, so he went to investigate and saw scarecrow demons attacking people. One of the 5 was on the verge of attacking a young boy, but before it could bang, the demons noticed Izuku's gun smoking as they turned to face the source of the sound. Izuku continued to point his gun at the demons as he said, hey butt uglies, didn't your mother teach you it's not nice to pick on little kids? Kid, take your friends and go now. It's gonna get messy, Izuku stated. He waited for the scarecrows to approach him, then leapt into the air and fired 2 shots, hitting 2 of them. The other 2 were slashed at him, one aiming for his head and the other for his body, so he landed back on the ground while the other 2 slashed at him. He did a twisting flip between the blades and pointed his gun at one of them, killing it. He landed on the ground and kept his gun, giving the final demon a come on gesture with his hand. The demon charged at him, so he grabbed it by the face and slammed it hard on the ground, destroying its head and splattering blood on him. Izuku accelerated his pace to the opera house and remarked, just great, now I got blood all over me and I'm still running late. When he arrived at the opera house in time to hear the conclusion of the opening number, he began applauding the girl who had just finished singing. She was about his age, had brown eyes and hair, and was dressed in a white dress and black boots, a DMC-4 ensemble. Izuku noticed that she was wearing an angry expression. Hey Kairi, how are you? Izuku asked nervously. Kairi told him, where were you? you missed my song. I know, but in my defense I was out getting you a present and was on my way until some kids got attacked by some demons. Izuku responded evasively. Kairi nodded and said, okay, just don't be late again. Okay Nero, Izuku's undercover name, Kairi said, so what did you get me? Izuku said, after this is over, I'll give it to you. When Sanctus, the Order's high priest, emerged and invited the members to join him in prayer, the members at the opera house had finally assembled. This bored Izuku, who was about to walk away when Kairi intervened. Kairi whispered to him, where are you going, Nero? The sermon isn't finished yet. Look Kairi, me and this religion don't mix, so I'm gonna show myself out before I die of boredom, Izuku told her. A figure bursts through the ceiling and lands in front of Sanctus, shooting him in the chest just as he is ready to leave. People in the opera house panic and flee as a result of this. Izuku told her, Kairi, get to safety now. Kairi questioned him, but what about you, what are you going to do? Izuku went to confront the assassin and declared, I'm going to hold him off until backup arrives. When Izuku arrived at the stage, he saw his uncle Dante, the assassin, signaling the start of the operation. Izuku pretended he didn't know Dante when he said, so you got a name, pal. Izuku rushed towards Dante and delivered a roundhouse kick that he blocked, saying, I see you're the silent type, huh? Well, when I'm done kicking your ass you're going to sing like a bird. Dante raises his defenses when Izuku sends a right cross to his face, but he sidesteps and punches Izuku in the gut, knocking out some air that he quickly recovers from. Izuku then rushes towards launching a left cross, and Dante uses a feint to deliver a butterfly kick directly to Dante's face, causing him to back off a few steps. Dante grinned as he looked at Izuku. After a brief pause during which they exchanged punches and parried each other's blows, Izuku threw a side kick at Dante, who caught it and threw a powerful front kick that sent him flying into the stands. Izuku recovered from this and delivered a Superman punch to Dante's face, sending him rolling on the ground. Izuku decided to end the fight by throwing Dante into the air and hurling rebellion at him, pinning him to the nearby statue, after noticing that reinforcements were approaching. When the reinforcements arrived, Dante was seen taking the sword off his chest, glancing at Izuku, and then leaping through the window. Izuku said to the man entering, geez, what took you so long, Credo? Credo grinned and remarked, had to get his holiness to the medical ward. Where is the assassin? Don't tell me he got away from you. He was a tough one, but I was starting to wear him down before he ran away, Izuku stated. Izuku picked up the sword and swung it. Credo told him, your orders are to capture him and bring him back to answer for his crimes. Also you'll be needing this, he said, gesturing for Kairi to bring the case. We modified your sword and tweaked out the exceed system on it so your attacks will pack quite a few more punches, Credo said. This blade is the best battle companion a swordsman could ask for, Izuku stated. Credo warned him, it's vital we get Nero alive, so don't fail him. Izuku gave Kairi a small box, which she opened to reveal a golden miniature four-winged angel with a red crystal in the center. Got it, I'll bring him back, no worries. Before I forget, happy birthday, Kairi. Okay, I'll be going now, see ya soon, Izuku said as he left, following Dante's lead. Fortuna Castle. Izuku followed Dante's path to Fortuna Castle, but it took him a while because he had to pass Farum Hills, where he had faced and vanquished a demon named Virgil, which caused it to flee back into the false Hell's Gate. As Izuku entered the castle, he sensed Yamato's presence close by, so he accelerated and ran in that direction. When he arrived at the castle's central ground, he said another false Hell's Gate. The words, hey, come out here and face me, were spoken aloud by Izuku. A huge demon that resembled a toad emerged and asked Izuku, how did you sense me, human? I hid myself well in this place. You may be able to hide your body, but that smell of yours gives you right away. Look, I don't have time for this, I'm kinda in a hurry, so let's wrap this up, Izuku said while holding Red Queen. The demon spits its tongue at him, which he avoids, and charges at it, sending 4 slashes at it, which it avoids by leaping up in the air. Izuku sees this and stabs his sword into the ground, twisting the handle to cause the sword to rev, causing the blade to spray flammable liquid, activating his exceed. Izuku then leaps into the air, slashing the demon upwards, keeping it in the air, and he follows through by spinning upwards while slashing the demon repeatedly. He then pulls out his gun and charges the shot, sending the demon crashing into the ground, landing on the demon, piercing its head with his sword and revving the handle once more, burning the demon alive. Izuku took his sword away as he heard applause. As he made his way to the Hellgate, Dante remarked, nice job, kid, you did well. Izuku said, hey Uncle D, you like the show? As he took the glowing orb near the entrance to hell, Dante remarked, "Yep, you've come a long way." The orb then transformed into a gray briefcase with cracks and a sliver circle in the middle that encircled a three-eyed skull with fangs. "Whoa, what is that?" inquired Izuku. Before they heard multiple growls coming from the Hell's Gate, Dante responded, "This is the Devil Arm Pandora." They turned to see numerous other toad-like demons hanging around the gate. As Dante grinned and pressed the skull onto the briefcase, transforming it into a six-barreled Gatling gun that he fired, tearing through all the demons and demolishing the Hell Gate, Izuku questioned, "Please tell me you have something to deal with all that ugliness hanging around." Izuku, impressed by the weapon, remarked, "Whoa, can I borrow that for like the entire mission, because this will save me a lot of time. When we're done here I'll use your own devil arms, okay? So for now just go and get back Yamato," said Dante. Izuku said, a little irritated, "Yeah, I wouldn't have to do this if you didn't break it in the first place and leave it for the order to find." As he and Izuku parted ways to accomplish their goals, Dante remarked, "Just get going, I'll meet up with you after I take care of the demon that got away in Farum Hills." Izuku looked around the castle until he found the entrance to the underground facility owned by Anyus, the stuttering scientist of the Order. Izuku sees the broken Yamato in the center of the room. As he approaches it he is ambushed by four armored knights that stab him, pinning him to the wall, injuring him more. Anyus walks into the room and tells the injured Izuku that Sanctus has been revived by infusing the soul of a demon into him. Anyus also tells him that he has been trying to put Yamato back together so they can open the true Hell's Gates in Castle Town. After hearing this, Izuku activates his Devil Bringer, causing Yamato to react to it by mending itself and flying into Izuku's hand, sending a wave of energy that destroys the armored knights and sending Anyus flying across the room. Anyus looks at Izuku and sees him holding the repaired Yamato in his transformed arm and his eyes glowing red. Anyus retreats and reported what he saw to Sanctus, who ordered Credo to go and capture Izuku, which Credo obeyed and left. Sanctus then ordered Gloria, Trish, to capture Dante. Izuku was now making his way to Mides Forest. Mitis Forest. When Izuku reaches a cliff and looks out over the forest, he says it's beautiful. Izuku groaned as Dante interrupted his moment by saying, "Yeah, breathtaking, isn't it? Too bad it's filled with demons." "Only you can ruin a peaceful moment, Uncle Dante," Izuku replied. "Well, someone's got to do it, otherwise it'll get boring real quick," said Dante. "So how did everything go at Farum? Did you kill it?" Izuku inquired. Dante said, "Yep, and I also got a sweet new devil arm called Lucifer." He then proceeded to the cliff's edge and said to Izuku, "Well kid, let's rock so we can get home and relax after all this is over." Izuku grinned and followed him as he leapt off the cliff into the forest. Izuku spent some time exploring the forest and came across some ruins. When he reached the center of the forest, he discovered another fake Hell's Gate. Izuku said angrily, "Really, how many of these things are there?" He felt a demonic presence as he was walking toward the gate, so he turned around and saw a round, ball-like object flying at him. He quickly pulled out his gun and shot them, but then he heard a loud screech and looked up at the sky, where he saw the demon Echidna. Izuku jumped out of the way as he saw it flying toward him. The demon remarked, "A human, I haven't seen one of your kind in a long time." "Yeah, I'm also going to be the last one you see, lady," Izuku replied. The demon flew toward Izuku, who grabbed onto it as it flew into the sky, causing it to scream in agony as it attempted to knock him off its back. The demon then flew into the forest, hitting some trees as it flew toward Izuku, who showed off his acrobatic skills by hopping from tree to tree at high speed. Izuku took his sword from the demon's back and walked towards the head, wanting to finish it off, but as he got closer, its tail struck him, sending him a few feet back. The demon then flew towards the gate, hoping to get away, but Izuku grabbed its tail with his Devil Bringer and dragged it back, repeatedly slamming it into the ground. He then pulled the demon towards him, forcing him to perform a spin slice, killing it. When Izuku saw Dante emerge, he said, "Man, that was an amazing workout. Really, you could have stepped in at any time, you know," Izuku said to Dante, who was standing close to the gate. As he picked up the orb that turned into a pair of gauntlets and greaves that he uses to destroy the Hell Gate, Dante said, "Yeah, I could have, but where's the fun in that?" "Okay, next stop is the Order's HQ. It's time to end this, so let's go," Dante said. "Hello Nero, nice to see you here," Credo said to Izuku as he blocked their path on their way to Order's headquarters. "Credo, you will be returning empty-handed because I can see that His Holiness sent you to capture me," Izuku said. "Uncle Dante, you go ahead, I'll catch up," and Dante nodded before sprinting in the direction of headquarters. As I pulled his sword, Credo remarked, I see that you are a threat to our cause and I will stop you here and now. They both ran at each other, slashing quickly at each other. Credo tries to slash Izuku's midsection, but he blocks it and kicks Credo away. Izuku then runs at him, slashing him upward, sending Credo flying. Izuku then jumps in the air and slams his sword on with such force that he crashes into the ground. I realize that if I want to defeat you, I'll need to give it my all in the battle. Credo said respectfully to Izuku, for someone as young as you to be this skilled is a testament of your abilities. As the light fades, Izuku notices Credo standing in his demon form. With his eyes narrowed and his Devil Bringer activated, Izuku remarked, "So this is why they call you Angelo Credo. I never would have guessed that you would go through the Ascension ceremony." A few moments later, I apologize for missing the battle. Izuku was standing with his sword resting on his shoulder, looking at Credo, who had a big cut on his chest. Just as Izuku was about to knock him out, Kairi came and saw that he was going to hit her brother, causing her to scream and draw attention to herself. Izuku tries to explain to her why he is doing this, but she is terrified when she sees his Devil Bringer. Using the distraction, Anyus grabs Kairi and flees towards the Order's headquarters, where Sanctus is standing atop a giant statue of Sparda. Sanctus glanced at both of them and remarked, "So you've come, Nero, and I see you brought Credo with you." "Let her go, Sanctus, come down here and face me," said Izuku. "Ha ha ha, why would I let go of a good bargaining chip him?" Sanctus said. "Always knew you were a coward, now you finally show your true colors. I'm going to enjoy kicking your ass, old man," Izuku replied. "Sanctus, I have served you loyally, I have served the dream of the world you spoke of, the savior that you promised. Was that all a lie? Answer me," Credo said to him. "Oh Credo, my devoted disciple, you fail to see the benefits of this." Sanctus told them, "I am releasing the world from the bonds of ignorance. Since quirks first appeared, humanity has stagnated, and even after learning about demons, they still placed all their faith in heroes. Therefore, I will unleash the hordes of hell on the world and I will use the savior to show my power." Izuku called Yamato to his hand and said, "You are just another power-hungry madman. People like you have tried and they always fail, so enough talk. Either you let her go or I'm going to make you." The savior's hand sprang out and caught Izuku as he was about to charge at Sanctus, causing him to drop Yamato, which Anyus picked up and gave to Sanctus. Credo saw this and changed into his demon form, flying at Sanctus, giving him an evil smirk as he vanished in a flash of light and reappeared behind Credo, stabbing him in the heart with Yamato. Izuku's eyes widened in shock at what he had just witnessed, and Kairi screamed as she saw her brother being stabbed. Dante, who was battling all of the knights in the headquarters, had just arrived when he saw Credo collapse to the ground. He then saw that the savior was holding Izuku and hurried to free him. Izuku yells at Dante as he is absorbed into the savior, "No, stop him instead." Izuku points to the flying Anyus that was escorting Yamato to Castletown in order to open the Hell Gate. "You can save me after you stop him. I'll be fine, just go now," Izuku says. Dante carries Credo's body away after Izuku is absorbed into the savior, and Credo gives him his last words, telling him to save Izuku as his body glows white, making him vanish. Dante goes to Anyus to stop him from opening the gate to hell, and he arrives just in time to see Anyus getting ready to open the gate with Yamato. Before Anyus can do so, Dante shoots him in the head, killing him. Dante then walks towards his body, picks up Yamato, and exits the room. When Dante saw the savior coming, he chose to use Yamato's dimension slash to destroy the Hell Gate in order to get rid of Sanctus. When Sanctus saw this, he gave the savior the order to destroy Dante. He attempted to fight the savior but realized that the savior's body was invincible, so he chose to wake Izuku up from inside the savior. Dante threw Yamato at the savior's chest core, causing the sword to be sucked and travel directly to Izuku. "Kidnap time is over, so wake up and kick this guy's ass already so we can go home," he said. Izuku wakes up after Yamato hits the cocoon he is kept in, asking, "Where the hell am I?" As he looks around, "Oh, that's right, I got absorbed by the savior, men, Uncle D's never gonna let live this one down," before sensing Sanctus and heading to his location for the final battle. When Izuku gets to the savior's central control, he sees Sanctus and Kairi trapped in a sphere behind him. He reaches for Red Queen but soon realizes he dropped it when the savior grabbed him, so he chooses to fight with Yamato instead. Izuku addressed the demonized Sanctus, saying, "Hey Astus, did you miss me?" As he led the sword Sparda, named after Izuku's grandfather, Sanctus remarked, "Ah Nero, how nice of you to grace us with your presence. You and Dante have ruined all my plans, now all that is left is to destroy you," he said. Izuku replied, yeah, well, bring it on. Sanctus throws 3 ground waves at Izuku, causing him to leap into the air. He then uses his Devil Bringer to launch himself at him, blocking a slash. As Izuku recovers, Sanctus shoots a huge fireball at Izuku, who uses Yamato to put out the fire and uses his air trick to get behind Sanctus, who disappears in a flash of light just as Izuku is about to cut him. Izuku looks around and sees that Sanctus appears above him, ready to stab him with Sparda, but he sidesteps and sends an ethereal arm from his Devil Bringer to grab him. Izuku then slams Sanctus into the wall, pulling himself towards him and cutting off Sanctus' arm. Sanctus let out a cry of pain and rage, "You little brat, I will kill you for this." He then threw energy tentacles at Izuku, which he was able to avoid, but Sanctus showed up behind him and cut him on his back with Sparda. He then gave Izuku a powerful backhand punch that sent him flying across the room and colliding close to Kairi's sphere. Izuku tries to get up as an enraged Sanctus lashes out in pain with red lightning, causing him to scream. Izuku then used his Devil Bringer to block the lightning as he pushed forward to Sanctus, which caused him to look at Izuku in disbelief. Izuku then closes the distance between him and Sanctus and stabs him with Yamato, causing him to scream in pain. Leaving the sword in Sanctus, Izuku then rushes to free Kairi, who was unconscious in the sphere. He breaks it and carries her to safety, but Sanctus pulls out Yamato and throws it away as he looks at Izuku with hatred. Izuku, carrying Kairi, didn't see Sanctus appear behind him, putting his hand through his chest as he drops Kairi, causing her to stir. Kairi wakes up and finds Izuku with a hand protruding from his chest. The words, "I told you that you would die here and I meant it," were spoken by Sanctus. Izuku grinned and told Kairi to leave the area when his Devil Bringer began to charge. Kairi fled, but Izuku caught hold of Sanctus and caused his Devil Bringer to explode, destroying the entire control room and seriously injuring Sanctus. Then, as he approached Sanctus's flaming corpse, Izuku called Yamato to his hand and fatally stabbed him with the sword. Izuku is so worn out from the battle that he collapses to his knees. He tries to stand up but is too exhausted and injured to do so. Izuku remarked, "Woo, what a rush, I think I'm going to take a break from all this for a while," as he saw Kairi enter and kneel next to him. Kairi remarked, "Look at you, you're a mess," upon observing his condition. "Nah, this is nothing compared to training with Uncle D," Izuku laughed. Kairi told him to remain motionless as her hand began to glow. Izuku looked at Kairi and saw that she was healing him after noticing that his strength was returning and his wounds were healing quickly. Izuku inquired in a startled manner, "You have a quirk?" As she healed him when he was hurt, Kairi nodded and informed him that only her brother was aware of it. Izuku saw the tears welling up in her eyes. Izuku sincerely apologized for everything that transpired. "It's not your fault, none of this is. My brother always did what he thought was right because he wanted me safe and he died because he tried to save me and now I have nothing left," she said as she wept. Izuku stood up and said, "You're wrong. You have me, and I'm going to keep my word to your brother and keep you safe. So come with me and start a new life away from this, what do you say?" she replied. As the savior left, she took his hand and grinned. Dante, Lady, and Trish were waiting for Izuku outside. As they congratulated him on his new position, he smiled and approached them. After a week after taking care of a few small matters that had been left in Fortuna, Izuku and the other members of the Devil May Cry gang were getting on a ship to return home. As Dante and Izuku sat on the deck to talk, Izuku prayed in private that it wasn't about interrupting Dante, Trish, and Lady as they were having a threesome. Dante asked, "So, did you like what you saw?" Izuku told him, "Give me one more word about that, and I'm going." "Alright." Dante told Izuku, "I want to talk about you killing Sanctus. You might be able to hide it from the other person, but not from me. I can see the regret in your eyes. To be honest, I don't know how to feel about it. Part of me feels he deserved it but another part of me feels bad about it," Izuku stated. Izuku was unable to respond when Dante asked him, "Let me ask you something, kid. Do you think all demons are evil?" "No answer, huh? Well, the answer is no, not all demons are bad, just like not all humans are good either," he said. "The reason I'm telling you this is because demons can feel human emotions, and humans can be worse than them. It's crazy, I know, but that's also why I wanted you to accompany me on this mission. To demonstrate to you that not everyone is good. It's both good and bad that you are still a naive child because if you want to be a hero, you must understand how the world functions. Trust me, it's not black and white, it's gray, and if you don't learn to adapt, it will devour you." Dante told him, You must realize that not everyone can be saved if you want to be a hero who saves people with a smile on your face like All Might." He then left him to reflect on his words. They returned to Japan a few days later, and Izuku took Kairi to meet his mother, with whom he got along well. Izuku was still thinking about his conversation with Dante, so he went to see him a few days later. "You're right about everything," Izuku replied to Dante. "Not everyone can be saved. If they could, the world would be a better place. I still want to be a hero who smiles when he saves people so that what I do can inspire others to do the same thing," Izuku stated to Dante. The knight in the order said, "You saved his life when you were undercover, so he decided to do something to repay you. So when he found your sword he brought it to me," Dante said, throwing Red Queen in Izuku's direction. As he led Izuku to the basement, Dante told him, "What I told you on the ship was to test your resolve, to see if you were cut out to be a hero, and you passed with flying colors. By the way, I promised you a devil arm when we got back, so it's time you got it. The one I'm giving you belonged to your father, so it's only right I give it to you," Dante said. "So where is it?" inquired Izuku. Dante locked Izuku in the room and said, "Well, you see, there's a catch. You have to beat the demon for it to recognize you as its master." "Okay, I'm game, bring it on," Izuku said as he heard the approaching footsteps. Almost 2 years have passed since Izuku and Dante's adventure in Fortuna. Since then, Izuku's name has gained notoriety among the Demon Hunters Society, but they didn't know who he was and the press couldn't identify him because they didn't have any pictures of him, or, if they did, his face was always hidden behind a mask and hood. They called him Nero the Devil Breaker, and he always lived up to the name whenever Dante wasn't available. In Izuku's school, "All right, you kids are in your final year, so you should all think about your future and careers. So I should be handing out these applications, but I know you all want to be heroes, so what's the point?" The instructor in the classroom stated. Yeah, you all have incredible quirks, but using your powers on school grounds is still prohibited, so settle down," the teacher yelled at the students after they began cheering and showing off their peculiarities. The haughty ash-blonde Katsuki Bakugo said, "Hey teach, don't group me in with these bunch of extras. I'm the real deal. These extra trash would be lucky to get into some crap hero course." One of the students shouted, "Bring it on, I could kick all your asses." Bakugo responded by making his hands spark, which somewhat silenced the class. This statement caused a commotion in his class. "You think you're better than us, Bakugo?" Bakugo was a 5 feet 8 inches ash blonde with red eyes that darkened when he became angry, giving him the appearance of a delinquent despite being in the top academic group in his class. The teacher read a newspaper and said, "Yes, Katsuki Bakugo, you have very good test scores and you're trying to get into UA high school, right? Maybe you'll get in." One of the students whispered, "He's going to a national school," which sparked a flurry of discussion. "I heard it only had a 2% acceptance rate. It's impossible to get into that school." The class fell silent as Bakugo stood up and said, "UA is the only school worthy of teaching me. I'll rise above all you extras and become a famous hero, even better than All Might him." Before he could finish his tirade, his teacher said, Izuku Midoriya, you also want to get into UA, right?" Izuku continued writing in his notebook, ignoring them. Bakugo yelled, "Deku," and turned to face Izuku, his palm glowing as he prepared to blow up Izuku's desk. Izuku saw this and moved his notebook out of the way, secretly using his Devil Bringer arm to move a desk in front of Bakugo, which caused him to fall to the ground. When the bell rang to announce that school was out, Bakugo was about to get up. The teacher and a few of the students left the classroom, but 2 of Bakugo's thugs stopped Izuku as he was packing his belongings. As Bakugo removed the book from Izuku, one of the goons remarked, "Look what we have here, Deku has a little diary." Bakugo looked at the book and remarked, "Hero Notes for My Future Volume 13. Don't tell me you're taking notes on how to be a hero." He found the book to be so pathetic. The book is then blown up and thrown out the window by Bakugo. Bakugo placed his hand on Izuku's shoulder, smoke rising from his palm, and said, "Listen, Deku, most great heroes show potential early in life. You can just look at them and know they are destined for greatness, and I'll be the only one in this shitty school to get into UA and people will talk about me. That's not ego talking, I just know I'm that damn good." Bakugo then started to leave. "Besides, if you want to be a hero so bad, here's some advice. Take a swan dive off the roof and pray you get a quirk in the next life," Bakugo told Izuku. He was letting loose a little killer intent and demonic aura that caused everyone in the class to drop to their knees. Seeing that everyone was getting back up, he decided to just leave and let Bakugo's remarks stand. To say that he was angry would be an understatement. As he entered the tunnel he usually took home, Izuku thought to himself, "Stupid Bakugo, What if you told someone that and they listened to you and did it? How would you feel? Anyway, it's time for some training because UA's entrance exams are approaching, so I won't be in school until after I take the exam. Then he stopped when he sensed something moving quickly toward him. He turned around and saw a sludge monster emerge from the tunnel's sewer hole. After that, the sludge collected into an abhorrent mass that extended to the tunnel's ceiling. Izuku saw that the sludge had a large, toothy mouth and yellow eyes. When the sludge saw Izuku, its eyes widened and it began to smile ominously. I was finally able to him the slip, it said. Before its tentacles sprang forward to seize him, it said eerily, "Oh my, what a wonderful body you have." To avoid being snagged by another tentacle, Izuku ducked beneath it and leapt back. He assumed his fighting stance and glared at the sludge before me. His opening stance, which was a personal fusion of Muay Thai, Karate, Judo, Taekwondo, and Capoeira, was his right-handedness, with his left flank facing his opponent and his right arm cocked back and bent at the elbow. His left arm was extended forward with his palm loose, ready to block, parry, or grab any attack thrown at him. Based on his appearance, I can tell that he attacks quickly, but he stays motionless, so he can only do it in brief spurts. Izuku thought, so I'll just stay away and wait for an opening, or I could just annoy him to do that. The sludge villain said, "Don't try to resist, kid, I'm just going to take over your body. I promise it will only hurt for a few seconds and then you'll feel nothing," before capturing Izuku with a flurry of tentacles. But Izuku had other ideas, so he used his air trick to teleport behind the villain as the tentacles approached. He then leapt to the ceiling, activated his Devil Bringer, and launched himself at the villain. While he was back from Fortuna, his Devil Bringer changed, becoming black with blue lines on it, DMC5. Izuku then launched an ethereal arm that punched the villain in the head, causing the ground to crack and a few pieces of it to splash. When he landed, he noticed that the villain's eyes had rolled to the back of its head, indicating that it had been knocked out. Izuku remarked, "Now what to do with your ugly ass?" as he considered how to catch it. Then he saw a large bottle and an idea came to him immediately. Toshinori Yagi, also known as All Might, was impressed and shocked when he emerged from the sewers during his fight. If you can call it that. With the sludge to witness a boy who was only 15 years old, he would be 16 when he entered UA due to 10 months of training, swiftly and easily defeat a villain. As All Might looked over Izuku's skills, he thought, wow, this kid got some skills. He waited for the villain to leave himself wide open and he quickly countered by attacking its blind spot. He shows promise. All Might said, "Hey, young man, are you alright?" Izuku's thoughts of defeating the sludge were abruptly interrupted when he turned to see All Might speaking to him. "Whoa, All Might, you're here." Yeah, I'm totally alright. Were you chasing that guy?" Izuku asked, and All Might nodded, as he instantly went into fanboy mode as stars appeared in his eyes. As he handed the villain to All Might and produced his hero note, Izuku remarked, "Well, you came just in time. Here you go, and can you also sign this for me?" As he studied the notebook, All Might remarked, "Wow, this is really detailed." He was impressed by the specifics of the quirk's operation as well as some helpful tactics for dealing with villains. As Izuku handed him the bottle and prepared to go, All Might said, "Well, here you go, young man, and thanks for the assistance with the villain. Keep it up and you'll have a successful hero career. I'll handle the villain from here, so good luck." Izuku addressed All Might, saying, "Hold on, I want to ask you something." "Sorry, young man, but I'm in a hurry," All Might said as he leapt, using such force that it created winds. He was at his limit and was going to land on a rooftop to rest, but to the astonishment of All Might, Izuku was still in the air, clinging to his leg. Everyone may have yelled at Izuku, "Young man, what are you doing? Let go, seriously, what's up with you fans?" Izuku told All Might, who spotted a building and landed on it, "I just want to talk and ask you something, so before you drop me at least do it on a roof." The statement, "young man, that was very dangerous, you could have been hurt," could have been used to reprimand Izuku. In order to ask All Might a question that had been on his mind, Izuku said, "Yeah, I'm sorry for that, but I really need to ask you something." The statement, "young man, maybe another time, so why don't you go home?" may be an attempt by All to push Izuku away and hide his true identity. "I know, but this has been on my mind for..." As smoke poured out of him, making him shrink, All Might thought, "Damn it. I can't go much longer." Izuku saw smoke emerging from All Might's body as he shrank, preventing him from finishing his sentence. All Might sighed and responded to the query that was on Izuku's mind. All Might?" As Izuku stood there in disbelief at what he had heard, All Might uttered, "Yes, I am All Might." "But how?" How can you be like this and still be All Might, the person who smiles fearlessly while saving lives? A fearless smile, huh? All Might said as he started to explain to Izuku that he had been hurt in a battle with a strong and deadly villain, that the injury had caused him to lose a portion of his stomach, and that he was only able to perform hero work for 5 hours a day. Izuku was astounded that his favorite hero was battling a serious injury and still managed to smile without showing any signs of fear. I see now that you hide your fears behind a smile, because people will lose hope if they discover that the top hero is truly scared, Izuku said, shocking everyone with his solution. You said you had a question, that's why you held on to me, All Might said, and Izuku gave him a perplexed look. Now, what's the question you wanted to ask me, young man? Izuku said, oh yeah, that completely slipped my mind, which made All mutter about the younger generation and possibly choke on some blood. What does it mean to be a hero? Izuku asked All Might. When I watched the video of you saving all those people from that crash as a child, I always wanted to be a hero. Izuku remarked, I've been considering what it means to be a hero. That's a good question. All Might replied. Listen, young man, there are many definitions of a hero, but the most important one is to fight for something greater than yourself, to put your life on the line when it matters most because your actions will inspire those that will come after your time is over. That's what you have to do, Izuku was told by All Might. Izuku bowed his head to All Might and said, I guess he was right, as All Might stared at him in confusion. My uncle told me exactly the same thing you just said. I guess I needed to hear it from someone else for it to finally get it. Thank you, All Might. He might have stopped in the middle of his sentence to reveal that he didn't have the bottle that contained the villain. Glad I could help. Now let's get off this roof and give the bottle to the Po. They looked at one another, and Izuku asked anxiously, All Might, where's the bottle that's holding the sludge? Shit, is what Izuku and All Might have said. A few minutes in advance as he crushed a soda can, one perpetually irate Katsuki Bakugo exclaimed, that piece of shit Deku, who the hell does he think he is applying for UA when he's freaking quirkless? Hey, weren't you childhood friends with him? I think you might have gone a little too far with what you said to him, said one of the mobsters. As if that worthless piece of shit just irritates me. He believes that if you believe in yourself enough, you can achieve anything. And what the hell did I say about smoking? That's going to reflect badly on me, so stop it, Bakugo said, kicking the bottle that held the sludge. He's just a stupid dreamer and is nothing but a pebble in my path. Bakugo took the cigarette and stepped on it, oblivious to the mass of sludge that rose from the ground. According to the sludge, invisibility cloak, with a powerful quirk. Although Bakugo's friends saw it, they were unable to alert him before it caught him. Izuku and everyone may be present time you dropped the bottle with a dangerous criminal inside, but how? Izuku shouted at All Might, you're supposed to be the #1 hero for a reason, given the current circumstance. Don't you start blaming me, mister. I'm going to grab on to All Might, while I try to secure the villain, replied All Might. Izuku said, okay, let's not assign blame, we need to find him quickly, and All Might nodded in agreement. Izuku and All Might both went forward and saw the sludge villain, but there was something different about him. Izuku focused on the villain and saw that he had Bakugo as a hostage. Just great, he's hold Bakugo hostage, Izuku thought as he saw Bakugo. They both heard explosions and ran in the direction it was coming from. When they arrived, all they saw was mass destruction, fire, overturned cars, and people fleeing the scene. My classmate is the hostage that the sludge may hold captive. Izuku said, you must do something because the sludge must be using his quirk to cause the explosions, and All Might glanced down. Izuku's eyes widened in surprise as All Might grimly remarked, I can't, Izuku, I've reached my limit for the day. Izuku begged him, but there must be something you can do, right? But he received no response. Shit, why aren't the other pros doing anything? Izuku thought, staring at the other heroes doing nothing, and then he turned back to the villain and noticed something. Bakugo's eyes seemed to be pleading for assistance. Izuku snapped when he saw this. Run, you say, play. Screw it, I'm going to save him with or without their help, Izuku thought as he started to pick up speed, and he leapt the protective gate and ran towards the villain, while the locals yelled for him to leave. The villain screamed, there you are, just the boy I wanted to kill, but Izuku continued to run in his direction despite his fear. Ah, my eyes, I can't see. Izuku rolled on the ground to avoid the sludge's 2 tentacles, picking up 2 stones and throwing them at the sludge's eyes, which caused it to scream in agony. Then Izuku teleported to Bakugo and was attempting to drag him out. Deku, what are you doing? Bakugo was interrupted before he could finish. Izuku pulled him out of the sludge, teleported away, and dropped him on the ground without a fuss. Shut up, "In here to save you, dumbass," he said. Izuku shocked Bakugo by pulling up the sleeve of his right hand and using his devil bringer, saying, "Look here, Bakugo, I don't like you, but let me remind you that my dream is to become a hero. It's a hero's duty to put his life on the line to defend those who can't defend themselves. In addition, your eyes were begging for assistance." All Might was taken aback by what Izuku had just done and said, and as he watched Izuku charge at the sludge with more force and speed than he had the first time, his words resonated with him and made him smile. After blocking the villain's attack attempts and teleporting above him, Izuku cocked his arm back while in the air and concentrated more power in his arm, saying, "Hey moron, I already kicked your ass, so I'll make this one quick," as he landed on the villain. Izuku yelled, "Take this demolition fist," and struck the villain with such force that it created a wide crater and a shockwave of displaced air, causing the sludge to splash everywhere and knocking him unconscious. All Might think, "Whoa, such power. I'm pretty sure that the strength of his punch and his speed would match 30% of my power." His smile widened as he saw Izuku standing over the vanquished villain, smoking in his hand, with the crowd applauding. "I've found him, I finally found my successor," he said. Izuku grinned as he exited the crater and made his way to the gate, still thinking that he had just saved Bakugo. He doesn't like him, of course, but when he saw him in danger, he rushed to his aid without hesitation. The heroes ushered the crowd away so they could deal with the aftermath of the attack, and after reprimanding him for his actions, they thanked him and said that if he went pro, he could always come work for their agencies. When Izuku and Bakugo were alone, Bakugo yelled at Izuku, saying that his quirk was far stronger than his and that he didn't need his help. Izuku simply waved him off and left without saying anything. "Man, I can't wait to get into UA, so I have a legit reason for kicking his ass all over the school," Izuku thought as he ran into All Might on his way home after the entire incident. "IAM. All Might was unable to finish as he coughed up blood and deflated. "Seriously, you have got to give people a warning when you decide to spew blood all over the place," Izuku said to All Might. "Besides, I know what you're going to say." All Might have asked, "What was I going to say?" "That I shouldn't have gone to Inn to rescue Bakugo and that I shouldn't have used my powers in public, so can we just skip the lecture?" Izuku asked All Might. His eyes widened in shock as All Might told him, "I wasn't going to say that at all. Sure, it was reckless and dangerous to do that, but I just want to know why you did it," All Might said inquisitively. "I'm not sure. I followed my body's instructions. Something suddenly struck me when I realized he needed assistance, so I took the action I believed was right," Izuku said. "Young Midoriya, did you know that most heroes' origin stories all start with them saying that their bodies moved on its own in time of danger?" All Might asked Izuku after he had finished speaking, and he gave him a straight-faced smile. Izuku questioned, "Why are you telling me this, All Might?" All Might told Izuku, "Because what you did was nothing short of amazing. Even though I and the other professionals did nothing but watch, you charged at the villain to save young Bakugo without hesitation." Izuku was left speechless when All Might said, "You handled the villain with such skill and precision that I thought you were a pro yourself, and most importantly, you reminded what it means to truly be a hero, so for that I thank you." Izuku thought, "Wow, I just did what I felt was right. I didn't think I would inspire the #1 hero. I have a proposition for you, young Midoriya. I would like to train you to be my successor and inherit my quirk. Do you accept?" Izuku was told by All Might. When Izuku finally made up his mind, he thought, "If I accept, I'll be as strong as All Might and it'll also give me an advantage against some demons. Hell, it could even make my demonic powers much stronger. I'll do everything in my power to succeed you, but only if I can tell my family about it first." Izuku told All Might, "I know you don't want people to know, but you can trust them." All Might have said, "All right, young Midoriya, I'll take your word for it." Izuku grinned and said, "Sweet, when do we start, because this is one hell of a party." After a week of Izuku meeting All Might sat down with his mother, Kairi, Trish, and Lady Dante was on a mission, and revealed his secret. They were both shocked and delighted that Izuku would be his successor, but they were also relieved. Dagobah Beach. When Izuku got to the beach to meet All Might for his training, he couldn't even call it a beach anymore because it was so stupid, full of trash, and smelled like a lot of things had died there. "Young Midoriya," All Might yelled at him as he approached. "Hey everyone, how are you?" Izuku asked. "Are you sure we're in the right place?" And everyone may have nodded. All Might have said, "Of course, this was Dagobah Beach and also where you will be training," and Izuku was perplexed until it finally dawned on him. Izuku said, "You want me to clean up the beach of all the trash, don't you?" And All Might nodded. "Young Midoriya, yes. It was a lovely place before it was overrun with trash." Izuku nodded in understanding as all stated, but heroes became interested in fame and fortune and ignored civil work, so it became like this. All right, tell me why we're doing this before we begin. Because I know how to fight well and my body is in great shape, Izuku said, displaying his six-pack and muscles. I don't find your self-management surprising. However, this beach needs to be cleaned, and it will allow me to evaluate your peculiarity. In addition, All Might was about to say something, but he was cut off. All Might was perplexed when Izuku said, "Ah, I see what you mean. You're implying that even though my body is prepared to manage the power, it won't become accustomed to the stress and backlash it generates." Izuku said, "Shockingly, since you told me that your quirk stores power, I'll need to get used to 100% OFA in order to store more power." "Yes, I was going to tell you precisely that. We don't need you to tear your muscles and break your bones," All Might have said. All Might's eyes widened in surprise as Izuku said, "Don't worry about the stress, my body heals almost instantly, so something like that will only take a few seconds to heal." "All right, let's not waste any more time, the moment has come for you to receive one for all," All Might said, receiving a nod from Izuku. "Did you just say you can heal?" All Might asked. Looking at All Might, Izuku squared his shoulders and tensed up. "All right, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes, All Might, I'll give it my all and I won't let you down," Izuku said. All Might chuckled as he looked at Izuku and saw the resolve in his response. "That's the spirit, now," All Might said, reaching for his head and yanking out a strand of his hair. "Eat this," All Might said, presenting his hair to Izuku in an exaggerated manner. Izuku looked at All Might in a strange way and said, "Say what now?" "In order to gain one for all you must ingest the current holder's DNA and the hair is the least disgusting part you can eat," Izuku was told. Even though he didn't feel the hair, Izuku was still feeling sick about voluntarily swallowing All Might's hair. As strange as that sounds, it actually makes sense, he said as he took the hair from All Might. He hesitated for a few seconds before he sighed and reluctantly put the hair in his mouth, collecting spit to swallow it without. As All Might changed back into his original form, he said, "All right, let's talk about your own quirk in the meantime. It will take some time for your body to metabolize my hair and give you OFA." As he changed his right arm, Izuku explained, "Well, this is my power. It's called the Devil Bringer, and it allows me to become stronger and faster as well as manifest a spectral arm. My uncle said that there's a lot of power I've yet to tap into, that this is just the surface of what I can do," Izuku stated to All Might. "I've been meaning to inquire about your uncle's identity," All Might have said. "Your mother and those other 3 girls were the only members of your family that I met." "Well, now that you brought it up, I realized that Dante and Nico weren't present." All may have given Izuku a funny look when he said, "Man, I was wondering why it was so peaceful for me. Those 2 aren't here to drive me crazy. My uncle, Nico, is his name is Dante, but you most likely know him as Redgrave." Izuku shocked everyone by saying, "Artisan of arms, in other words, she's our engineer." Izuku nodded when All Might have said, "Wait, your uncle is Redgrave, the number 3 hero. Well, that explains a lot, it's no wonder you're this strong. Since he defeated Endeavor in combat and can compete with me, you know he should be ranked as the 2nd hero. Not to mention that he owns Devil May Cry and is the best demon hunter in the world. Yes, he is a good hero and a wonderful man, since he's so well liked, laid back, and doesn't do anything irrationally like fighting Endeavor 3 years ago," Izuku said. "I'm not surprised he kept the number 3. Anyways, I think your body should have assimilated one for all by now, so let's test it out," All Might have replied. "All right, so how do I utilize it? Should I perform a chant or something?" Izuku inquired. "Well, one for all takes on different forms for each user, but the overall impact and emotion remain the same. It feels like I have to clench my buttocks and yell, 'Smash,' from the bottom of my heart every time I use it," All Might told Izuku. As he closed his eyes and began to concentrate, Izuku said, "Okay, let's give this a try." He then began to draw on the other power he felt in his body, which was similar to fire but felt more like lightning. The smell of burnt ozone began to overpower the beach scent as a greenish-blue arc of lightning began to emerge from his body, turning his skin orange and revealing red veins of power all over it. The ground below him began to crash from the raw power he was releasing, and a strong wind began to blow from where he stood. All Might grinned back at Izuku when he opened his eyes and said, "Well, young Midoriya, it looks like this is going to be an interesting 9 months." "Oh, yes, they are," a voice said, making Izuku and everyone else turn to face the source. "So this is where you've been, huh kid," the man said, and Izuku recognized him. Izuku inquired, "Hey Uncle Dante, when did you get back?" Dante looked at All Might and said, "I can't believe this is what you really look like, All Might. Guess you've seen better days, huh? Yesterday, your mom filled me and Nico in on everything, and I'm here to assist you in any way I can," Dante said. "Yes, Redgrave, or should I call you Dante, is with me," All Might said to Dante. "Your nephew is really interesting, to put it mildly, and I'm going to need your help in pushing him over his limits. What do you think, Dante?" Dante said to Izuku, "Looks like you're in for a bumpy ride, kid. I hope you're ready for it." Izuku told them both, "Bring it, you guys. I can take it, so let's start this party." 9 months later, during Izuku's training, he cleaned the beach in 5 months, which allowed him to use the remaining months for combat training with OFA. He sparred with both All Might and Dante, giving him control over 50% of OFA. All Might and Dante compared the beach to how it looked 9 months prior. All Might also learned that he and Izuku were part demon, and they told him their family history. After hearing the story, All Might realized that both of them had the blood of a hero flowing through them and said that he wouldn't tell anyone unless they wanted him to. Dante also concentrated on trying to get Izuku to achieve his devil trigger form, which proved challenging because he realized that Izuku was afraid he would lose control and stop being human if he did that. Dante didn't force him because he had experienced the same thing when he was younger. During his training, Izuku's physique also changed. He was now 6 feet tall, his hair had grown a little longer, and his muscles had become more defined and dense, giving him a deadly combination of strength and speed. Since the entrance exam was tomorrow, Izuku, All Might, and Dante were now watching the sunset on the beach. "You've come a long way, kid," Dante told Izuku, "who would have guessed you'd make it through this whole thing, and now you're stronger than ever." All Might also have told Izuku, "You have exceeded all of our expectations, young Midoriya, and I know you will continue to do so." "Well, thank you so much for all of your assistance. I truly appreciate it." Izuku told them both, "You spent so much time helping me, so the least I can do is not let you down." As he left the beach to prepare for the test, Dante nodded and said, "Well kid, tomorrow's the exam, so go home and rest up." It looks like the kid more than ready for the exams. He's going to tear the house down at UA," Dante said to All Might. "Yes, he is. I wanted to share some recommendations with him, but he would have declined because I know him," All Might remarked. "He's stronger than I was when I first got OFA, and he'll keep getting stronger." "He will, but he must first overcome the belief that he will succumb to his demon side and lose his humanity," Dante stated. "He has every reason to be afraid of his power, but it will hinder his future advancement. Once he overcomes it, he will rise and surpass his current level." Dante nodded when All Might asked, "You know what's causing this, don't you?" "Yes, there was an incident involving Kiri's brother Credo in Fortuna. He accuses himself of not having the strength to save him, but he also fears that if he does, humanity will be lost," Dante remarked. "However, only time will tell how he decides to proceed. He's already ready for this, in my opinion, and he'll dominate UA there," All Might remarked as he walked off the beach. "I'm positive that no one in UA has ever been like him before. They're going to have a crazy time," Dante said with a smile. The day of the entrance exam, after waking up at home and beginning to prepare for the test, Izuku left his room to be met by his mother, Kairi, and Nico, who wished him luck on the test. Izuku and Kairi then headed to the exam site. Since Izuku had been promoted to assistant nurse for UA and was working under Recovery Girl, Kairi was going with her. Izuku had asked All Might to help her get a job at the school, so All Might took her under her wing, showed her her skills, and helped her prepare for an online exam to earn her medical degree because she lacked a medical license. Izuku and Kairi arrived at the school's grounds and parted ways as Izuku headed to the hall, ignoring the curious looks he was getting from other teenagers because he was wearing a green tracksuit with red Snickers instead of his school uniform. One Katsuki Bakugo's voice said, "Get the hell out of my way or die, Deku." Izuku turned around with a groan and glared at Bakugo, saying, "Dude, there's plenty of room for you to pass, so piss off." Izuku was about to use his quirk when Bakugo growled at him, but he changed his gait and passed by Izuku instead. Izuku muttered, "He is never going to change. I'm starting to regret saving the jackass," as he looked at Bakugo and shook his head in disappointment. A short while later, he began to follow the other applicants to the building, but as he did, he ran into a girl with brown hair. Izuku said to the girl, "Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking where I was going." The girl turned to face Izuku and blushed as she said, "It's okay, it happens sometimes." As she stared at him, she thought, "Wow, this guy is really hot." She stammered, are you here for the exams too?" And Izuku nodded. Izuku told her, yeah, I'm here for the heroics exam, and I'm aiming for class 1A. Calm down, too. I want to be a great hero. As she introduced herself, Ochako said, by the way, my name is Ochako Uraraka. Izuku. It's good to meet you. My name is Izuku Midoriya, but you can call me Nero. Exams are about to begin, so we should start heading in, Izuku said as he and Ochako entered the building. Exam room. Ochako remarked, wow, there are a lot of people here, as he and Izuku entered the exam room and noticed that hundreds of children were attempting to become heroes. Izuku told Ochako, well, UA is the best school in the world and everyone wants to get in. Ochako and Izuku both found seats in the room, and Ochako sat next to Izuku when he saw Bakugo standing close to him, frowning. Ochako looked anxious, but Izuku told her to calm down, and he turned on his wireless headphones to listen to some music. Present Mike entered the stage to announce the start of the exams. Are you all ready to become heroes? Give me a hell yeah! Mike yelled at the applicants who failed to respond. Izuku leaned his head on his hand and waited for the exam to start, not paying attention as Mike explained what to expect from it, including the exam questions, battle robots, and time allotted. Sheesh, tough crowd. Everyone in the room received their exam, and Izuku started as soon as he received his. It had been half an hour before Izuku stood up and attracted attention. Izuku said, yo Present Mike, I'm finished, which made Mike spit out his drink and give him a startled look. The other applicants also did the same. Everyone in the room thought, how could he be finished already? Mike began grading Izuku's test because he was the only one finished, and after 10 minutes, he was astounded by what he saw. There's no way he could have got everything right even if he finished that quickly. As everyone's mouths fell open and their eyes widened, Mike said, well congratulations, you got 100% correct. Even Bakugo was taken aback by what he heard. You can. As Izuku departed to await the next test, Mike remarked, go wait in the waiting room until the heroics exam begins. Mike looked at Izuku and thought, I have a feeling that he's going to ace the entire exam. He was sweating. Several hours later when Izuku finished, he was already ready. He took off his tracksuit jacket, tied it around his waist, and began stretching. Everyone was staring at him, sensing he was a possible challenge, while everyone else had finally finished their exams and had headed to the heroics battle exam, changing into their workout clothes and getting ready to begin. As everyone stared at Izuku, one test taker remarked, that's the guy that got a 100% on the exam and finished in like 30 minutes. Another said, how powerful do you think he is? He's an unknown right now. Izuku grinned as he glanced at the countdown and thought, when the exams start, I'll take off and head for the first robots I see. Right now, it's search and destroy. Some of the others here likely have combat experience, but I'm way ahead of them because of Uncle D. 5. Izuku took his place. 4. Everyone was preparing. 3. Izuku's neck and knuckles cracked. 2. A few were perspiring. 1. Izuku channeled OFA as he bounded into a full-on sprint, confusing the others as the doors opened. As the others began to leave, Mike remarked, what are you all waiting for? There's no waiting in the hero job, get going. As they approached, Izuku teleported behind one of the 2 pointers and punched its head off, grabbing the body and throwing it at the other one. He then hurried towards the final one, picking it up and delivering a power bomb that destroyed it. Izuku, who had escaped sooner than the others, channeled OFA into the rest of his body and ran straight into a 1-pointer, punching it, which sent it crashing into another one. When the others heard the devastation Izuku had caused, they started searching for robots to destroy. Izuku saw 4 3-pointers and teleported to them, instantly destroying them as he continued his search and destroy objective. As he leapt to the side of a building and slammed his knee into a 2-pointer, Izuku continued to destroy everything in his path. He noticed a few robots floating and realized that Ochako was the one responsible. As he watched her touch her fingers, causing the robot to crash into the ground, Izuku thought, it must be some kind of gravity quirk, it looks really cool. Hey, you really need to watch back, can have some of these tin cans harming a beautiful lady like you, Izuku said, winking at her before teleporting to the roof after spotting a single pointer running towards her and kicking it. As she flushed, Ochako thought, he called me beautiful. Observation deck according to the Pro Hero Midnight. Well, it looks like we have an interesting batch this year, as the test takers were observed and assessed by the professionals. The Pro Hero Vlad King looked at the monitors and said, yeah, we got a boy with a stomach laser, another one that can shoot tape out of his elbows, and another one that can harden his body. We got a lot of raw talent this year. As Mike gazed at the screen that displayed Izuku, who had everyone's attention, he said, Yeah, we also have someone who is dominating this test. I think he might pass with a full 100%. Who are you referring to? Vlad King inquired. As all the experts watched Izuku effortlessly destroy robots, Mike said, "Say hello to one Izuku Midoriya." He completed the written test in 30 minutes and received a perfect score. As he and the other heroes watch Izuku destroy 4 robots with a spinning roundhouse kick, Mike remarked, "He also has been destroying the robots with ease and looks like he hasn't broken a sweat." Vlad King remarked, "Look at him go, this kid is a beast." "I'm telling you guys, we have a lot of promising talent this year," said Mike. As he smirked and flipped the protective case to press the large red button, Toshinori Yagi, also known as All Might in his true form, said, "We can be too sure of that yet. The real test starts now," he said, pressing the button. The professionals watch as the fourth villain's enormous form appears in every battle area and immediately begins wreaking havoc by moving and swinging its enormous metal arms. The villain's immeasurable size easily demoralizes the examinees, who begin to flee. Taking on this specific villain is completely pointless. All Might, however, smirked triumphantly as he saw something that didn't surprise him at all on the screen he was concentrating on. "But this creates an opportunity," he said, smiling solemnly, feeling a little let down by the fact that nearly everyone fled from the fourth villain. "But this creates an opportunity," he said. An early few seconds as he punched the final 2 pointers on the street to oblivion, Izuku exclaimed, "And that makes 140 points. Man, this was fun, but I'm kind of bored already. I wonder if they are going to up the ante a little bit," Izuku thought to himself, hoping to break the record of 200 points. As Izuku rounded a corner, he noticed that many of the other competitors were destroying robots and vying with each other for the right to do so without causing each other any harm with their peculiarities. Izuku felt the ground tremble as he was about to leave, thinking, "Well, there's nothing to do here, so I'll just go to another area." His eyes widened as he watched as enormous amounts of dust and debris rose from the ground about 50 feet from where the others were. As he watched the enormous robot emerge from the ground, Izuku thought, "Holy shit, now that's what I'm talking about." He noticed that the others were screaming and fleeing as he approached the robot. When he saw that everyone was rushing past Ochako as she cried out for assistance, he thought angrily, "What the hell, that's Ochako. Why isn't anyone trying to help her?" As she grunted in agony and was trapped beneath a slab of concrete. Play you say run the examies who ran saw green lightning pass them on its way to the robot, but Izuku had already reached Ochako and stopped in front of her. Izuku started running towards her, channeling OFA into his legs to accelerate his pace. One of the competitors remarked, "It's that white-haired guy." Another said, "What is he doing? He's going to seriously hurt himself." "How are you?" When Ochako looked up and saw him standing in front of her, Izuku asked. Izuku nodded as Ochako stated, "I think my ankle might be broken, but it's stuck." With a tone that made her feel safe and protected, Izuku said, "Don't worry, I'm gonna get you out of here." Then, using one hand, she grabbed the debris and flipped it off her ankle. Izuku nodded and said, "All right, stay here, I'll be right back," in a tone that left no room for debate. He then picked her up bridal style, which caused her to blush, before teleporting to the exit and gently setting her down. As he watched Izuku's next move, the boy in glasses thought, "This guy is acting like a veteran pro right now." As he approached the robot, Izuku activated his Devil Bringer and channeled OFA throughout his body. "Hey scrap metal, looks like you just won an all-expense-paid trip to the junkyard," Izuku yelled as he approached the robot and paused a few feet away to examine it. In an attempt to shake him off, the robot teleports directly in front of Izuku's face as he cocked his arm back, charging his Devil Bringer with both his demonic powers and 50% of OFA. Izuku jumped up and ran on its arm, aiming for its head, but the robot's arm missed. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXX as the heroes witnessed Izuku confront the villain without hesitation when he saw Ochako in danger, they all exclaimed with pride, "Yes! An opportunity to shine brightly and rise to the surface." "That's right. The most important quality of a true hero," All Might exclaimed, fighting the impulse to change into his muscular form as he watched Izuku use OFA to enhance his Devil Bringer. For there is nothing greater and nobler than self-sacrifice. XXXXXXXXXXXXX as he slammed the robot's head off its body, Izuku screamed, "Take this, Imperial Impact!" The force and speed of his blow caused a shockwave. Everyone saw the villain's head leave a trail of devastation before it was finally stopped by the enormous fence, in which it was deeply embedded. When the head hit the fence, the body exploded. Izuku landed on the ground, leaving a small crater behind, his hand smoking and trembling slightly from the amount of power he used. but no one made a sound. "Quit playing and say, run." As everyone was in disbelief at what Izuku had done, one of the competitors remarked, "Did you see that? He just one-shot that massive robot like it was nothing." "And time's up, people," was the present Mike's cry, but after that, nobody in the vicinity was listening. The boy with the glasses thought, "Didn't they see what he did? He just saved that girl. Of course, if this wasn't a test, I would have done the same thing. Wait, it couldn't be the test." As he approached Ochako, Izuku said, "Hey Ochako, how are you?" Still in disbelief over what she had witnessed, Ochako said, "I'm fine, my ankle just hurts a bit." "Guys, don't worry," an older woman in a lab coat said, "we'll take it from here. Kairi, check if anyone is injured and take care of them," she said to her assistant, who nodded. "I swear these exams are getting more reckless with each year," she said angrily as her lips reached out and kissed Ochako's leg, healing her. Izuku thought to himself, "Wow, that's Recovery Girl, and Kairi is here too." She looked at Izuku's arm and asked, "Are you alright, sonny boy?" He replied that he was. Kairi ran over to ask, "Nero, how was your exam?" Izuku told her, "It was fine, thanks for asking Kairi." Ochako thanked him for saving her, and he told her that it was the right thing to do because she needed assistance. Izuku wished her farewell, saying, "Well, I'll be seeing you Ochako, I'm going to head home, it's been a really long day." A week later as Dante, Trish, Lady, Kairi, and Nico waited for him to open the letter, Inko exclaimed, "Izuku, it's here, your letter from Ua is here." As All Might put it, "I am here as a projection," triggered the device in the letter. "You have done something that no other Ua tester has done. Congratulations, young Midoriya. You passed the test with a perfect score. Neither Endeavor nor I have ever achieved this. Additionally, it appears that you have a fan as well." All Might explained that Izuku had already passed the test, and as the projector displayed Ochako telling present Mike that she would like to give him some of her points to help him pass. Everyone wants to clarify that the experts were examining both rescue and battle points. Let this be a lesson, young Midoriya, that beyond a powerful quirk which you have twice over, is your noble and selfless actions that can inspire others to rise to the occasion, the mighty said. All Might smiled proudly and said, "Congratulations, young Midoriya. You have earned 200 points, which is the highest score anyone has ever received in the history of Ua. I look forward to teaching you there." Inko gave Izuku a hug while the others congratulated him on a job well done. "Come young Midoriya, this is your Hero Academia," was when the projector went out. As the rest of his family celebrated, Izuku thought, "This is it, I've finally made it. It's time for me to show them what I can do." Izuku received his acceptance letter from All Might 2 weeks ago, and since then, he has been occupied with demon hunting because he has 2 months before he begins Ua. At the time, Izuku was working on his motorcycle, which Dante had given him as a Christmas, birthday, and congratulations present. Izuku, who is now 16, was working on his van and motorcycle in his garage with Nico while they had a fascinating conversation. As he worked on his bike, Izuku remarked, "I still can't believe you didn't tell me you were applying for the support course in Ua. I know it just slipped my mind, I was going to tell you, but with all the hunting it was never really a good time," Nico responded in his defense. "Well, at least I'll have a familiar face around and try to make some new friends," Izuku replied. "Speaking of new friends, why haven't you checked on that Ochako girl? I mean, it's totally clear you got the hots for her," Izuku replied in jest. "I honestly don't know, but when I see her at UA we can hang, but until then I just want to get as much fun out of going on jobs before I'm stuck in school, and plus I kinda don't know what to say to her," Izuku said to the laughter of Nico. Wait, are you telling me the mighty Nero is shy and nervous around a girl?" Nico responded. Izuku stated, "That's not what I said." "I heard that," Nico retorted. "Anyway, before his mother called, your order for new parts will be here soon, so your little project can continue and," Izuku said. Inko said, "Izuku, Nico, lunch is ready." As he made his way to the van, Izuku said, "Okay, Mom, we're coming." Izuku stood over Nico and said, "Why don't you go ahead? I'll finish up here and save me a plate." Nico said, "No promises," as she entered the house from the garage. Izuku was working on the van's engine when he noticed a hooded figure outside and the shadow of a person standing behind him. Looking at the one who didn't respond, Izuku said, "Hey you need something?" Izuku turned back to retrieve the tools and asked again, "What is it, you hungry?" Izuku said, "Well, you're in luck, buddy, because the food is ready and Mom and Kairi always make too much." He turned to face the person standing inside the garage and said, I hope you like loud talkers too, because we have a pair of those upstairs. Izuku remarked, you see something you like, as he became aware of a pulsation in his right arm. As he kept his gaze fixed on the demon, Izuku questioned, what the hell, you a demon? Inko said, Izuku, your food is getting cold. Hurry up. Izuku interrupted her. Izuku turned his back for a moment and yelled, Mom, get back inside now. The demon then thrust Izuku's sword toward the wall and stabbed him with an ethereal one. He then called forth additional swords, drove the final one into Izuku's chest, and stabbed him in the arms and legs. As Izuku attempted to defend himself, his arm changed, but the demon seized it and began absorbing his demonic energy, burning his hand in the process. Izuku let out Yamato unconsciously as it hit the ground after he screamed in agony as he felt his arm burning and his power ebbing. The demon then began to laugh and picked it up. He was interrupted when he fell to his knees and struggled against something. Hee, look what I did to your son Virgil. Look upon and see his broken form and know that I took great pleasure in this, and now I'm going to end his life with your, the demon said. The demon, whose presence was restrained by another, uttered the words, no, you will not take over, I will not let you, your body is mine. When Virgil suppressed the other entity inside of him and noticed that Izuku wasn't healing, he said, keep dreaming, I am Virgil, son of Sparda, and I won't let you harm my son. After applying his hand to Izuku and reintroducing the demonic energy that had been extracted from him, Virgil noticed that Izuku was healing, albeit slowly. Izuku, I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you, Virgil said, taking off his hood to reveal his face, which was now dark due to black veins that had deteriorated his appearance. Virgil told Izuku, who had fainted from blood loss, I have to make this right, I know you can't hear me, but know that if I don't make it I know you and Dante will finish what I started. After getting to his feet, Virgil coughed on his hand and noticed blood on it. He drew Yamato, opened a portal, and entered it, saying, I'm running out of time. Izuku told Kairi and Nico not to enter the garage, so they ran in with Trish and the woman they called as the portal closed Inko. Concerned, Inko inquired, Kairi, how is he? He lost a lot of blood and is healing slowly. I'll do what I can, but we should call recovery girl, said Kairi. Trish asked, who did this to him? As they picked up Izuku and loaded him into the van, Kairi continued to heal him while they drove to the hospital. I'll call Dante, we'll meet at the hospital, take him to recovery girl, the lady said. A week later, although Izuku had recovered, his injured arm remained bandaged and was only gradually getting better. After Izuku was cleared, he took it easy and even started hanging out with Ochako, thanking her for her remarks about him after the exam was over. Izuku had told Dante that the demon had taken the Yamato, but he claimed he didn't see its face because he was knocked out as it began absorbing his demonic energy. Crying Devil May building. Izuku had just returned from Patty's birthday celebration, where he dropped his gift and spent some time with her before departing. Dante and Izuku were currently lounging in his office. Izuku said, so got anything for us to do, Uncle D? As the door opened to reveal Morrison and another person behind him, Dante said to Izuku, yeah, Morrison is on his way with a job for us, so all we do now is wait. Hey Morrison, what you got for us? I hope it's something good, asked Dante. Izuku and Dante sat up as Morrison said, yeah, I got a gig for you too, cash up front. Izuku remarked, really cash up front, now this we like. Morrison pointed to the man near the door and said, anyway boys, meet your new client. He was reading a book with the letter V on the front, had numerous tattoos all over his body, had black hair, was dressed entirely in black, including black sandals, and held a silver walking stick. Morrison said as he made his way to the door, listen, I'm going to find Lady and Trish and bring them in on this. Izuku concurred with Dante when he said, come on, you don't think we can handle this gig on our own? Sure, his arm is still recovering, but with both of them, it's more than enough. Morrison said as he left, it's a big job. Big job boys, and you are going to need all the help you can get. Dante and Izuku sighed and turned to face the enigmatic man who was reading his book close to the door. So what's your name? Dante inquired of an individual. The man smiled and walked forward, saying, I have no name, for I am but 2 days old. You can call me V, the now named V said, jokingly. Izuku looked at V and said, okay, why don't you tell us everything about this job? We need to know what we are getting into. Dante chuckled as V said, we need your help, Dante, and you too, Nero, because a powerful demon is about to resurrect. As he stood up and began to pace, Dante remarked, now that's a familiar tune. Do you have any idea how many times I've heard that exact same line? V remarked, this is special. Izuku questioned, what's so special about this one? This demon is your reason for fighting, V replied. Dante said, this demon got a name, while V grinned. Urizen is its name, V stated. Alright, we'll take it. So where is this Urizen resurrecting? Izuku inquired. City of Redgrave. A week later Izuku was on his way to Redgrave City, and Dante had already gone there with Trish, Lady, and V at the moment. Dante and the others were heading to the demon in the enigmatic tree that had emerged in the still-growing city. Lady remarked, wow, it stinks in here. As they continued to walk, Dante remarked, I know it smells like hot garbage, until V stopped. V looked around and remarked, this is far worse than I thought. There's no crime in turning tail, V. These things might be a little too much for you, said Dante. V turned to go, saying, you're right, I'll leave the rest to you. What? Whoa, my V, did you really turn tail all the way down here? What? The bird demon said. As he and Griffin departed, V remarked, one must always have an insurance policy. Griffin. Who was that individual? It's unbelievable that he just ran, the woman said. No one is unique. Dante said, come on, let's go clean up this trash. First come, first serve on the targets, right, said Trish. Lady said, music to my ears, hurry up, Dante, as they passed him. I guess I get to witness it firsthand. If it is indeed you, Dante remarked, quickening his steps. While traveling there, Dante came across a few demons, including the Insanity Ablaze Hellbat, CDMC-5, and the Barbed Discord Chaos, which he swiftly vanquished before arriving at the throne room. Upon entering, Dante noticed that Urizen was sitting on its throne, surrounded by blood, having just vanquished Lady and Trish. All right. I'm impressed, King of Filth and Stench. There is only one other guy the first know who can beat those two fierce women. It appears that I've struck gold, Dante remarked, glancing at Urizen. Dante, Urizen said, glancing at Dante as he took Rebellion off his back and got ready to strike. Running at full speed, Dante leapt to Urizen and swung his sword, but it was blocked by a red crystal that was glowing blue. Dante tried to hit Urizen again, but the crystal blocked his blow, and he then hit the cry again, hoping to break it, but he was unable to react in time as Urizen fired a beam that slowed him down and blasted him back. Then, as Dante ran toward him once more, Urizen raised his hand and fired a red fireball, and Dante sidestepped and leapt into the air as he fired another one. Dante pulled out his guns and was ready to fire when Urizen sent two tentacles at him, which he spun under and began running on, flipping them off as he sent more at him, which he dodged, and got hit by two more with such force that he crashed into the ground. A few minutes in advance when V and Izuku arrived in the tree, Izuku, dressed as DMC-5 Neros, noticed the explosions emanating from the throne room. Why am I squandering time here? Uncle D appears to be handling it already, Izuku remarked. This demon is not to be taken lightly. I'm leaving. I suggest you do not fall behind, V said, placing his cane on the ground as a black mist emerged from it. After all, he was the one who attacked you, took the Yamato, and gained a great deal of power from it. All right, V. You're right, but you're also a fascinating guy. Izuku began to make his way to the throne room, saying, I have a score to settle with that son of a bitch. He faced several demons on his way to the throne room, including the demonic insect Impusa and the airborne evil green Impusa, which he vanquished before continuing on, where he met V. Izuku remarked, hey, I thought you ran off. Are you not getting it? Without you, we have no chance of succeeding, V remarked. That's okay, Star. Continue being your evil self. Hovering over Izuku, Griffin said, go ahead, we got this. After leaving the remaining demons for V, Izuku nodded and hurried up to the throne room. When he opened the door, he saw Dante, Lady, and Trish on the ground while Urizen threw a sharp tentacle at Dante. Izuku drew his gun and fired it, attracting Urizen's attention as he held his gun back. All right. It appears that this will not be a time waster after all, Izuku said to Urizen, who stayed silent and stared at him. Hey jackass, didn't your mother ever teach you that it's not nice to steal? You got something that doesn't belong to you, return it, or I'll open a big can of whoop ass on you. I apologize, Dante. Izuku stabbed his sword into the ground and revved it as it began to glow, saying, I'm bagging this bitch. Izuku leapt forward as Urizen threw several beams of light at him, but the crystal blocked his path. Urizen then sent 3 tentacles at Izuku, who began to spin and cut them off with his burning sword. Izuku then ran at Urizen again, blocking 3 red fireballs that Urizen threw at him. Following a backflip as the final fireball approached, Izuku drew his gun and fired it 4 times at Urizen, who deflected it with his light beam, before teleporting in front of him and stabbing him before an unseen force sent him flying back. Izuku stood up, panting, and attempted to breach Urizen's defense. Gosh, his defense is unbeatable. I can't cut it with that crystal taking him, and it's hard to even get past it. As an arc of green lightning danced around his body, Izuku said, looks like I'm going to have to force my way through with OFA, so 50% should do it. He then stood up and began channeling OFA throughout his entire body. When the crystal blocked Urizen's path, Izuku charged at him once more with a sudden burst of speed. However, the force of Izuku's swing knocked the crystal away, surprising Urizen, who raised his hand to block Izuku but was unsuccessful as Izuku slashed the palm of his hand, causing it to bleed. Still in disbelief that Izuku had cut him, Urizen was blind to the fact that Izuku's left arm was extended forward as he started to charge his demonic energy and OFA was getting ready to flick his finger. Izuku would have used his right hand, but he didn't want to strain it further because it was still healing. Hey asshole, eat this. Delaware Buster Smash. Izuku yelled at Urizen while flicking his finger to send a blast of blue energy tinged with green electricity. Urizen raised his arm to block the crystal as it approached him, but it exploded as soon as the blast struck it, and the explosions overcame the crystal. Izuku was exhausted and breathing heavily after the explosion subsided. He looked up to see Urizen's entire arm was burned and bleeding. Izuku grinned at the harm he had caused him and remarked, "Ha, not so touch now are you?" The whole room shook as Urizen glanced at his arm and then at Izuku in anger. "How dare you, you unimportant bug!" As Urizen raised his healed arm and pointed it at Izuku, who failed to react quickly after noticing that he was slower, he said, "I will make you suffer for your defiance." Izuku tried to move more quickly but was unable to do so when he said Urizen charging a light beam. Did he just slow down time? He asked himself. Urizen fired a more powerful beam at Izuku, sending him crashing into the wall and columns as blood flew out of his mouth as he fell to the ground. Izuku raised his sword to block, but he was too slow, and several beams shot from the ground beneath him, throwing him into the air. Izuku and the others were on the ground when V arrived, and Urizen was hurling a fireball at Izuku. V nodded and extended his cane, but he was preoccupied when Dante stood up and fired 2 charged shots at Urizen, one striking the fireball and the other striking Urizen in the chest. Griffin said, "V, you have to do something or else the kid is doomed." "Hey ugly, round 2, Dante said, transforming into his devil trigger state, DMC5, and summoning rebellion to his hand, before charging at Urizen, who raised his hand to repel Dante, but the force and Dante were at a standstill. Dante was panting as he assisted, his guns still aimed at Urizen, who was upset with Dante for hitting him as well. As Dante attempted to resist the force but was unable to do so, the whole room started to tremble. "V, please get Nero to leave." Still trying to move forward, Dante remarked, "This was a bad move." Izuku struggled to stand up and said, "I can still fight, I'm not leaving you here." Dante returned his focus to Urizen and said, "Nero, please just leave, you've done enough here." Debris was falling everywhere, so Izuku said, "Back off, I'll help you," as V started to drag him from the room. When V finally pulled him out and debris blocked the entrance, Izuku said, "I'm not going to leave you here, Uncle D." As Izuku attempted to break through the rubble, V remarked, "Come on, we must leave here, he is far stronger than we could have imagined." "Stop hitting yourself and think of ways to get stronger and actually help," V said after forcing Izuku away from the wall and calming him down. "If Dante is defeated." As the region trembled from the power struggle emanating from the throne room, V remarked, "Urizen the Demon King, remember that is the name of the one who attacked you and took your sword. You are all that's left that can defeat Urizen," V said, turning to face Izuku. Dante was pushing forward in the throne room, his sword inches from Urizen's hand, when Urizen punched the rebellion, sending him flying backward as the sword broke and Dante reverted to his human form. Urizen threw several tentacles at Dante, and they began to encircle him. "This is power," Urizen uttered as Dante began to be squeezed by the tentacles. When Trish saw this, she stood up and threw the Sparda at Dante, who caught it, changed again, and destroyed the tentacles. Dante tore out one that was protruding from his chest and flew at Urizen, who raised his hand and blasted him with several beams that pierced him, but as he fell to the ground, Urizen blasted him out of the room and the tree completely, knocking him unconscious. As the tentacles started to wrap around Trish and Lady, Urizen remarked, "The Devil Sword Sparda no longer serves a purpose. I have things planned for you too. How fortunate you are to serve a divine purpose." You will exist to give me strength, Urizen remarked as they were pulled away. Days later, after returning to Japan with V, Izuku called All Might and informed him of the situation in Redgrave City, and he instructed All Might to leave the city as quickly as possible. After watching the news and seeing that the tree had grown, Izuku quickly realized that Dante had lost, and his mother, Kairi, Nico, and V advised him to concentrate on getting better so he could face Urizen once more. Recovery Girl checked on Izuku and said, "All right, Sonny, you have just a month to finish healing and then you can go and do what needs to be done." "Thank you so much. I start UA in 2 months, so after I'm done healing in a month I'll go back and finish this," Izuku replied. "Additionally, I believe it would be best if you let me handle this one," Izuku said to All Might, who was staring at him. "I know you want to go too, but if you push yourself too hard, I'm afraid you might die, so please let me handle this." "All right, young Midoriya, I'll let you handle this, but there will be other heroes there trying to keep the demons from leaving the city, me included, so do your best and end this evil once and for all," All Might said as he rose to leave the space. After returning home to rest, Izuku called Ochako, whom he invited to join the others for dinner, and resumed training, being careful not to overdo it because he wanted to be completely recovered before facing Urizen once more. Izuku began to run in anticipation of his next encounter with Urizen, saying, "Don't worry, we'll meet again, and this time I'm going to beat you and end you once and for all." After a month, Izuku was completely recovered and prepared to face Urizen once more after his defeat. During his training, he discovered that he had absorbed some of Urizen's demonic energy, which had given him some of his abilities. As a result, he concentrated on strengthening himself and raised his control of OFA to 55%. Redgrave City. After the incident became serious, the pro heroes set up a blockade to keep the demons from leaving the city, and All Might was there to keep some of them away from the blockade. He was able to get Izuku and Nico through, and he wished them luck as they drove into the city, reminding Izuku to call if he needed any assistance. While traveling, they came across a few smaller demons that Nico simply ran over with the van. When they arrived at the bridge, they noticed that some soldiers were still firing at the demons, killing them one by one until Izuku stepped in and destroyed them all. They continued into the city until they came to a roadblock, where Izuku told Nico to go in a different direction while he went on foot to find V, who stayed to get information. Izuku had reached the local church when a van came flying at him, and he jumped into the door as it struck the ground and collided with a wall, but he kicked the door open and emerged unharmed. As Izuku exited the van and noticed a tree behind the church building, he said, "Someone call a doctor." "People." A giant demon on the building's roof declared, "I wasn't expecting any survivors," as it leapt to the ground, crushed the van, and searched for Izuku. "I apologize for disappointing you. I was supposed to meet this guy who uses a cane, but you wouldn't happen to see him around here. Did you eat him?" When the demon turned around and saw him on a demolished building, Izuku asked. Your blood will be a priceless offering. Eating you won't help me, so that I can become king of the underworld. I will have every last drop of your blood." The demon swung its fist at Izuku, who leapt out of the way and landed with his legs crossed on another building. "Descendant of Sparda," the demon said. "King? You seem more like a knuckle-scratching fart in the wind than anything else, even though you're a big guy." Izuku addressed the demon, saying, "No offense. Human puny. Are you aware of who I am?" As it dispatched Izuku with his foot and proceeded to swing its arm, destroying the building he was on, Goliath declared, "I shall show you the wrath of the mighty Goliath." When Izuku was standing there, it turned around and began to pick up the debris around him. As it did so, its stomach opened up, revealing a red liquid substance, and it began filling it with the debris. When it was done, it fired a huge fireball at Izuku, who managed to avoid it. Izuku said, "Hey, cool trick, do you do parties?" Goliath said, "You'll regret this." "Yes, perhaps I will apologize." Izuku apologized, "I'm going to kill you," as Goliath roared and lunged toward him. Izuku ran at Goliath and pushed it back with an electrified fist, and Goliath swung up and swung at Izuku, who jumped in the air, landed on its shoulder, and punched it in the face. Izuku managed to get off its shoulder as it attempted to grab him, and Goliath then charged at Izuku in blind rage, punching the ground and sending them crashing below. When Izuku landed on his feet, he saw that Goliath had landed face, so he charged at Goliath and punched it 4 times before destroying the column with his face. Goliath struggled to stand up as Izuku leapt and gave it a huge axe kick that dazed it as it raised its head and glared at Izuku. Goliath roared in frustration and launched a huge beam of fire in an attempt to bury Izuku beneath the building, but Izuku managed to escape when it collapsed. Goliath saw this and leapt out after Izuku. While Goliath was in the air, Izuku leapt and gave it an uppercut that sent it back as it crashed into the ground. Goliath then grabbed Goliath's tail and spun as he threw it into the remnants of the church building as the debris fell on Goliath. I can't lose in a location like. Goliath stood up and said, by you of all things, the fruit will belong to me, not his. As it turned to face Izuku, who had drawn his gun to kill the demon, Goliath declared, I will rule the underworld. Izuku then saw Griffin flying, diverting the demon's attention as it attempted to flee. With bitter sorrow and misery, I curse my stars. Izuku turned to face V as he walked out behind him, saying, that made my love so high and me, so low. When a black mist encircled the handle of V's cane, he pointed it. A black panther then charged at Goliath, turning its body into a blade and severing its stomach, sending Goliath tumbling to the ground. Why? Why are you? Goliath inquired as it appeared to be V and noticed him approaching it. Little wanderer he the home. V uttered as he used the bottom of his cane to stab the demon, killing it as its body broke apart. I was thinking I had to pick you out of his tummy teeth, Izuku replied. Holding his book, V apologized for the wait, saying, I was catching up on some reading. As he saw the enormous tree in the distance, Izuku remarked, yeah, it looks like a real page-turner. Do you think Dante is still in there? He asked, observing the small tree dry up and crumble. Izuku questioned, glancing at the tree. Izuku stared at him in confusion as V remarked, if Urizen defeated him, then I expect he's not more than Qliphoth pollen by now. A what? Izuku inquired. It's a tree that grows in the underworld, Qliphoth. V pointed to the people whose remains were frozen in stone and remarked, let's just say they don't turn out too well. It feeds on human blood, and those whose blood it sucks, well. We must ascertain. Izuku began to leave, but V stopped him. If he's alive, he's probably hurt right now, so we need to save him, he said. As his panther approached him, V said, wait, first we need to exterminate some Qliphoth roots. This caused him to back off slightly, and Griffin landed on V's shoulder. V. What on earth are you? V grinned in response to Izuku's question. Nico, who had just gotten into the van, said, I know I'm late, so shut it, from the window before turning to face V. When Nico noticed the Goliath horn on the ground next to V, she said, so you must be V huh? You don't look like much. Hey, can you toss me that right there? She asked, pointing to the horn before V struck it in her direction with his cane. I'm going to make something amazing out of this, so how's it going Nero? Find anything on Dante, she replied. Nope, I'm going to head towards the tree, maybe he there, Izuku replied. In order to cover more ground, we will split into two groups. V remarked, Nero and Nico go to the tree and take care of any roots you find. I'll go west and take care of any roots I find. Izuku said as he climbed into the van, that sounds like a great plan, let's do it. Izuku and Nico drove deeper into the city while V went his own way, and when they reached a ruined library, Izuku sensed a root inside and got out to destroy it. After battling a few demons, Izuku found the root and walked toward it when he felt alone. When Izuku turned around, he saw a demon that looked like an angel with 6 wings and scaly skin. It had a humanoid upper body and a mermaid tail. Izuku jumped back and pulled out his gun as the demon fired lasers from its wings, causing it to veer to the left and fly quickly to avoid more bullets from Izuku. The demon then fired more lasers at Izuku, who leapt to the columns, and it fired some explosives at him, which exploded as Izuku leapt to the ground and kicked the last one away from him. So, let's get straight to the point without any chit-chat or monologue, okay? As he aimed his firearm at the demon, Izuku spoke. The demon screamed at Izuku and spread its head's appendages. Artemis, the demon uttered as it continued to shoot Izuku with lasers. When Artemis dodged the bullets, Izuku leapt into the air and fired more shots from his gun. Then, he used his Devil Bringer and sent an ethereal arm at the demon, but it dodged it and hit him with more lasers. Izuku then teleported behind the demon, severing a portion of its wings as it screamed in agony before striking him, sending him flying backwards. Izuku landed and charged at full speed, using his sword to block the lasers it was firing at him and punching it with his arm to send it to the ground. The demon got up to flee, but Izuku cut the lower half of it and saw something inside. The demon then shot more lasers and explosives at Izuku, who landed and went for the head, revved it up, and stabbed it, burning it slowly before deciding to stop and slamming it hard into the ground. The demon then jumped on the columns, avoiding the lasers as he leapt towards it and delivered the final slash as it screeched and stopped moving. As he leapt into the air, Izuku saw someone fall from the demon and caught them. It turned out to be Lady, who was naked and covered in slime. Seeing that she was unconscious, Izuku asked himself, "What happened to you, lady?" Nico asked, "Nero, are you okay?" as she entered and saw Izuku cradling Lady. Nico approached the demon corpse and picked up an orb before turning to face the man, who was looking surprised. "Seriously dude, we have a mission and here you are copping a feel on Lady. I'm so telling Ochako, your mom, and Kairi," she said. "I'm kidding. Thus, unfasten your jock strap and refrain from doing anything that I wouldn't do," Nico remarked as she returned to the van. As he lifted her and made his way to the van, Izuku remarked, "Man, if they saw this, I'll be in for a world of hurt." Using V at the moment, the enigmatic one was passing through a narrow passage with his familiar. "So V, you believe Urizen can be killed by this child?" Griffin inquired. As his entrance collapsed, V remarked, "One can only hope, but for now, we have more." Pressing engagement, V remarked as he kept moving forward. He and Griffin proceeded their journey, running into a few smaller demons that he vanquished until he came beneath a building that housed a demon that hurled a tentacle that resembled a plant at him, causing him to leap back. "You avoided me. Did you avoid me?" As it emerged from the roots beneath the building, the demon uttered those words. "Well, Nidhogg." As Griffin landed on V's shoulder, he remarked, "Never liked this guy." "You are a bother. Are you someone I know?" Nidhogg said. "He's as stupid as a box of rocks." Griffin remarked, "Let's not even bother with this guy the fifth. He's just a parasite and can't even leave the Qliphoth." "Have you insulted me?" "You insulted me," a furious Nidhogg uttered. Griffin remarked, "Oh, I think he heard me and now he's angry," as Nidhogg ducked a root at V. V turned to face Nidhogg, who said, "I'm going to kill you. Not during this lifetime." Like the sea to a fish or the air to a bird. As he prepared to fight and called forth the panther shadow, V remarked, "So is contempt to the contemptible. You employ demons. However, you, human," Nidhogg declared, hurling a few roots at V that were struck by Griffin's lightning while shadow sliced through the rest. While Griffin kept shooting lightning at Nidhogg and his roots, V remarked, "If the fool would persist in his folly, he would become wise." Griffin ducked a root that was aimed at him and said, "Meaning don't try to think too much, shithead." Shadow transformed into a long spear and stabbed Nidhogg, who screamed in agony as he did so. Nidhogg then charged at V, intending to cut him, but he jumped out of the way and struck him with his cane. Griffin insulted Nidhogg by saying, "See, even the big bad kitty knows you have shit for brains," as he became enraged and began to snap. When Nidhogg attempted to strike Griffin, the latter used his wings to conjure lightning and struck Nidhogg, causing him to lose an arm. "This idiot aspires to be powerful and eminent," Griffin said, "Strike him down." V. Shadow then pinned Nidhogg to the root from which he had emerged, and V leapt and fatally stabbed Nidhogg in the head. As Nidhogg dissolved and passed away, the roots started to crumble. When the roots eventually vanished, V and Griffin noticed a huge demon that turned to face them. Griffin turned around and began to walk away, saying, "Okay, alright, that's not good at all. Hey where are you going? Are you fleeing?" V turned to face Griffin, who pointed to the demon as he spoke. V continued to walk away, saying, "I'm afraid that's a little bit more that I can take on right now." The demon then began shooting at V, who began to run as quickly as he could while avoiding the explosions. As he continued to run, the blast struck the ground in front of him, causing him to fall through the hole it created. When he got up, he discovered some roots underground and started to destroy them and escape. When V reached a demolished area, he saw a giant demon that resembled a chicken and had a figure on its back conversing with another demon on a demonic horse. Malphas. Griffin saw Malphas and glanced at the other person it was speaking to, saying, "Of course, more trouble." He wasn't sure about that one, though. "Never seen him before, not in the underworld anyway," Griffin remarked as V pinned him to the wall with his cane, muting him while he listened to their conversation. "Sparda, look for the Devil's Sword. You are aware of its location. I'm still worried about it even though he told me to ignore it. As long as there's a Sparda blood descendant. Do you understand that I can't take any chances?" As she opened a portal and entered, Malphas addressed the demon who had been silent, saying, "Find it and destroy it, only then will his reign be truly realized." V let the demon on the horse know he was there after Malphas left, and it turned to face him while preparing its weapon. "I understand. I am aware of who you are." Griffin emerged behind V as he called forth Shadow, saying, "Don't worry, I'll be gentle." Shadow transformed into a buzz saw and headed straight for the demon, but it was knocked back with its electrified sword. Griffin began shooting lightning at the demon, but it was deflected as it now focused on Griffin. V jumped out of the way as the demon charged at him. The demon uttered the words, "Weak, powerless creatures," while it kept blocking Griffin's lightning strikes. "Well, did you know that it can speak?" Griffin ducked a demon slash and remarked, "V, you gotta come back for that. This is not the time for poetry, do something now, asshole." Griffin yelled at V as he interrupted him, saying, "One thought fills immensity. There is a way where there is a will." Griffin lifted him into the air to avoid the lightning strike, and V said, "Now let's take care of this." V was breathing heavily when he said, "The power to slow down time, now that's quite a horse." The horse slowed down time as it moved faster to kill him, but he saw through it and avoided the attack. "However, that indicates that it's a Greyon," Griffin remarked in surprise. "I thought Dante had already killed the last one. Not quite extinct, but a rare species. Until today, that is," V remarked as he dashed in the direction of the Greyon, just as Griffin struck the horse with a more potent blast, causing it to fall to its knees, and Shadow emerged from behind the demons, cutting it on the shoulder. Then, as the horse attempted to shake him off but was unable to do so, V leapt directly at it and stabbed it in the throat. He then drove his cane deeper into the horse, killing it and knocking off the demon that was riding it. After the fight, V was exhausted and fell to his knees while chasing the other one, who was also getting up and running away from him. "Are you all right, V?" Griffin flew close to him and asked. "I'm all right. I have to go after him. It might be our only hope if the Devil Sword Sparda is still out there," V said as he stood up. V, give this some thought. If you find it, what will you do? To wield the Sparda, you must be physically and mentally strong, and since you are neither," Griffin remarked, "the sword will be too much for you to handle." As he walked over to pick up the demon horse's horn and give it a quick examination, V said, "For me yes, but not for Nero. Let's go. Once we are near the Sparda, even I should be able to sense its presence," V said before heading out to find Izuku. With Izuku at the moment, Izuku and Nico were in the van, laying Lady down and waiting for her to wake up. "Well, she's still alive," Nico remarked. "You got a pretty smoking body though," as Izuku raised his eyebrows at her and said, "Look, just go do your thing, I got this." Izuku stood up as the van started to shake, and they both went to the window to find out what was causing it. Izuku exclaimed, "What the hell is that?" when he noticed the enormous demon that had previously attacked V after spotting the van. "He is too large to be left unattended." As he left the van to battle the demon, Izuku said, "I better take care of it, stay alert." Izuku studied the armored demon for any weak spots as it leapt into the shipyard to meet him, and as it landed, he saw one spot that was heavily covered in armor. The demon started shooting at Izuku, who was running and avoiding the blasts. He then leapt to the side of a building and leapt over the demon as he lured it away from the van. When the demon spotted Izuku, it started firing blasts at him. He rushed to kill it, using his ethereal arm to grab the leg and trip it, exposing the weak spot, but the demon quickly covered its body with spikes as Izuku was about to hit it, causing him to jump back. The demon then got up and continued firing at Izuku, who was using his sword to deflect the blast and firing his gun at the demon's head. Izuku leapt on one of the ships there and fired a charged shot at it, causing an explosion. Izuku tried to target the weak spot again, but was unsuccessful, as the demon started firing again as he landed on its back, activating its spikes once more. When the demon attempted to shake it off, Izuku used his ethereal arm to grab onto it. Because it was distracted, neither Izuku nor the demon noticed the ground giving out, and when the ground broke, the demon lost its footing and crashed into one of the ships. Izuku leapt off the ground and landed close to the destroyed ground, where he saw V and Griffin. Izuku questioned, "What are you guys doing down there?" "Thank you, but what?" Griffin made fun of Izuku by saying, "You think you brought it down all by yourself, pretty boy." Izuku told Griffin, "You know, maybe I should let Nico cook you up. I bet you taste like chicken." "Wah." Griffin began, "Why you ungrateful son of a..." But V interrupted him. "We'll leave the rest to you, we must be going now," V said as he and Griffin walked away. As he was leaving, Izuku picked up a piece of the demon to give to Nico because she was working on a special project for herself. When he got to the van, he discovered Lady awake. Izuku returned his focus to the demon that was having trouble getting up, so he went over to the soft spot and began punching it before stabbing it with his blade to kill it. Izuku sat down and said, "Hey, glad to see you're awake. How are you feeling?" Knowing what he was going to ask, Lady told Izuku, "Fine, a little woozy but I'm fine." "Whatever became of him and Trish? Were they like you in the end?" Izuku inquired. "Trish was captured, I remember that, but I don't know what happened to Dante," said the lady sorrowfully. As V opened the door and entered the van, Izuku exclaimed, "Damn it, I can believe this, I know he's out there somewhere." V told Izuku, "You can't drive through here with the van." "Yes, we are aware that all we did was wait for you." Izuku picked up his sword and walked out of the van, saying, "We'll go to the tree. Nico, find another way to meet up with us, okay? Get some rest for now, you need it." V handed Nico the Grayon's horn as he and Izuku departed, saying, "Here, this is for you if you have any need for it." When Izuku and V went underground to reach the tree, they came across a few demons but were halted by an armored demon that looked like Nello Angelo. 4 other demons then followed, and as they fought, their surroundings started to tremble as one of them broke off and started to head towards a cliff. They defeated them and leapt off just in time as the platform reached the cliff. Izuku remarked, "Took us long enough to get here, hope you ain't tired already," as he noticed the enormous tree, but V was focusing on the house across the street. "I just realized that this town has already been attacked. I was present." V pointed to the house encircled by roots and remarked, "I can still see it, that was the house I used to play in." "We have to part ways at this point. Go ahead," said V. Izuku heard a horn sound behind him and turned to see Nico coming down with the van, stopping instantly in front of him. "Well, you're going to miss all the fun," he said. Izuku, who was shocked that she had brought the van down with them, questioned, "How the hell did you get down here?" "You do know that my quirk allows me to make things quickly as long as I have all the components for it right, so I just built a drill and well you know the rest," Nico said when she emerged from the vehicle. Izuku turned to V and said, "Oh yeah, totally forgot about that. So what's your plan for this, V?" Izuku asked. Izuku gave V a startled look as he declared, "I'm going to seek out the Devil Sword Sparda." Izuku said, a little alarmed, "What, trust me, I don't think that's a good idea." As he began to leave, V remarked, "You're not the only one who thinks so, but we need all the help we can get to win this fight. You know how to ride one of these?" Izuku said, walking to the back of the van and unhooking his bike before rolling it in V's direction. "Wait, if you're going to look for it then you need to move fast." As he mounted the bike, V remarked, "Yes, I do. It will be much better than walking all the way to find it." As V grinned and drove away, Izuku remarked, "Good, if anything happens to it you are going to pay big time." As he climbed into the van and headed to Urizen for another battle, Izuku remarked, "Well Nico, let's get some payback." Urizen's throne room. After vanquishing every demon in the tree and confronting Urizen, who was seated on his throne, Izuku had arrived. As he approached Urizen and looked around, Izuku remarked, "Hey douchebag, you miss me." Izuku was told by Urizen, "You've come here to die. Observe how he speaks." Izuku told Urizen, "I suppose your parents didn't like you much because your name is awful." "My name isn't that." Urizen narrowed his eyes at Izuku and remarked, "I see no reason to tell it to one who is about to perish. I am power absolute." "All right, so." While holding his sword and revving it, Izuku remarked, "I'll make sure to put that on your tombstone. You'll be hurt." Urizen raised his hand and hurled a fireball at Izuku, saying, "And die." Urizen pushed him back with an invisible force, but Izuku quickly recovered and teleported in front of him as he raised his sword to cut him but was blocked by that crystal. Izuku jumped back as it turned into spikes, saw Urizen about to fire light beam at him, and jumped in the air, firing multiple small beams from his arm that he quickly activated at Urizen, who deactivated his own to block, then teleported to his chest and gave him a deep slash that Urizen was too late to block, causing Izuku to jump away from him. Urizen glared at Izuku as he said, "It appears you didn't learn from our first encounter because this is the second time I've wounded you. You were weak in comparison to me, mortal, even though you may have demon abilities pulsing through you." Urizen said, "How dare you strike me and draw my blood," rising from his throne as the runes shook and the pool of blood surrounding him grew larger. Izuku thought to himself, "What the hell is going on?" as Urizen stood up and the space began to open up. "You'll be sorry you were born a human. I'll reveal your worst nightmare to you. I'll give it to you." Urizen said, desperation and death, as his wound closed and he approached Izuku. As roots exploded from the ground to seize him, Izuku swiftly channeled OFA and charged at Urizen, who used his tentacles to knock him back as one wrapped around his leg as he started slamming Izuku into the ground. Izuku cut the tentacle and fired charged shots at Urizen, who countered the bullets with light beams. Izuku quickly increased OFA to 30% as he moved more quickly and cut Urizen in the shoulder, who then punched Izuku as he raised his sword to block, but it didn't lessen the impact as he was flung flying back. Izuku was still in the air when Urizen fired a small beam at him, which caused him to crash hard into the ground. A tentacle wrapped around Izuku and pulled him toward Urizen, who then punched him and threw a fireball that exploded as it struck him. Izuku got up, bleeding from the explosion that had burned his trench coat and shirt, and he saw that his sword had been knocked out of his hands as he looked at Urizen, who was smiling maniacal. As he ran at Urizen, who was not expecting this kind of speed, he decked him twice and gave him an uppercut that knocked him off the ground and onto his back. Izuku, still in the air, used his demonic energy to launch himself at Urizen and landed a very powerful punch in his stomach, which was slapped away by a tentacle as Urizen got back on his feet and spat blood from his mouth, which Izuku grinned at. Izuku then charged his Devil Bringer with his demonic energy and OFA at 100% as he was ready to flick his finger. Izuku said, "Try this on for size Delaware Bringer Smash," flicking his finger to release a stronger burst of energy as his hand sped in Urizen's direction. Izuku ignored his broken finger and ran towards the Urizen, who jumped in the air and crooked his arm as he focused OFA 100% and his demonic energy into his Devil Bringer as it began to glow blue as green lightning surrounded it. Urizen used all his tentacles and all his might to stop the blasts, but it failed and exploded as it came in contact with him, sending him crashing in his throne. As Urizen coughed up a lot of blood, Izuku screamed, "I'm not finished with you yet," one for all 100% destruction fist, and punched him with all his strength, causing the room to tremble and the ground beneath him to be destroyed. When Urizen's wounds started to heal, Izuku, who was on top of him, was hit hard by the punch, causing his arm to break and his skin to turn purple from the blood that covered part of it. He looked at the defeated Urizen and leapt off him while holding his broken arm, failing to notice that Urizen's tentacle had crawled into the pool of blood and began absorbing it. He opened his eyes and glared at Izuku with hatred and rage as he got to his feet. When Izuku turned around, he was shocked to see that Urizen's wounds had healed and that he was standing again. Urizen then threw several light beams at Izuku, who was unable to respond in time because they were coming from all sides. Izuku was flung backwards as he crashed into the ground, but Urizen's tentacles caught him and lifted him off the ground. Urizen remarked, "I told you that you were merely human, that you were weak," as Izuku screamed as the tentacles started to squeeze him. Urizen shielded his eyes as a blur suddenly flew down and sliced the tentacles in a burst of red energy. "Who is brave enough to meddle?" As a figure emerged from the explosion's dust, Urizen inquired. The figure was a demon with 2 pairs of wings and a long horn on its head. Its body was made of black demonic stone and metal, and its entire body was wreathed in demonic flames, with the head and chest glowing incandescent orange. Urizen uttered the word, "Dante," as it narrowed its eyes at the man who was hovering before him. Urizen narrowed his eyes at Dante in his new form as he stared at him. However, Dante was thinking back on how he came to be in this new form prior to their fight. 1 hour earlier Griffin flew above him surveying the area while V rode Izuku's bike in pursuit of the Sparda. Griffin returned to V to report what he saw after glancing ahead and spotting some demons. V inquired, "Did you find it?" Griffin landed on V's shoulder and remarked, "Well, I don't know what I found, but I think I saw demons dancing." As he drove to the location, V remarked, "Well, then let's continue. I sense the Devil Sword Sparda is close." After stepping off the bike, he looked around and saw that the Sparda was stuck in a building's side. He also noticed that the demons were dancing close to the building, with a root next to it. As the demons turned to face him and V, Griffin exclaimed, "Whoa, this is some kind of ritual shindig, isn't it? You guys got the dance fever for Sparda, don't you?" V remarked, "I'll be taking that. You know your endless worshipping isn't making Sparda any happier." The demons charged at him, but Griffin easily blasted them and Shadow easily cut through them. Before moving toward the root and stabbing it with his can, which caused it to dry up and fall apart and also knocked the Sparda down from the building, V searched the area for any more demons. V approached the sword and attempted to lift it, but he found it difficult to hold because it was too heavy. V put the sword down and remarked, "It seems the sword is still too strong for me." Griffin hovered around V and remarked, "So close, though, so close. You got a lot of heart, you really do, but you're a bit of sissy in the strength department, no offense." V started to say, "Nero has the heart and strength to wield the sword, so let's get it to him quick," but was cut off by Shadow's roar. As he dragged the Sparda along, V approached Shadow's position and noticed something that startled him. "Dante!" V exclaimed upon seeing Dante unconscious, his white hair smeared with blood, giving the impression that he was perched on a throne. Griffin loaded the Sparda and Dante onto the bike and drove off to a safe place after V told him to get out of there. With a slight smile on his face, he laid Dante on the ground and gazed at him. Griffin landed next to Dante and said, I don't even have the words. He alive? How is he alive? V gazed at Dante and remarked, it appears that the Sparda was hiding his presence. Not even Nero could detect him. Griffin remarked, how does one frigging guy have so much luck, seriously? As V dragged the Sparda in Dante's direction after dropping his cane. Griffin knew what V would do, so he said, V. No, get a hold of yourself, come on. If only you could defeat Urizen. If only. No, if only you never existed, then V said, ignoring Griffin's pleas for him to stop and raising the Sparda to stab Dante. V stabbed the sword into the ground next to Dante's face as he brought the sword down, causing him to open his eyes. Before he sat up, Dante glanced at V and noticed the Sparda next to his face. Dante looked around and remarked, wow, for a moment there I thought you were going to shish kebab me. I know how stubborn you can be. I thought it might be the only way to wake you, V replied. Dante called out, what day is it? V remarked, the 3rd of February. As he stood up and began to stretch, Dante remarked, I've been out for a month. No wonder I'm so stiff. Dante grabbed Griffin's face and tossed him aside as Griffin remarked, right sunshine, now put a fire under it. We got to get going, because that annoying pimple is making a beeline for Urizen and if he gets there he's gonna. Dante turned to V and remarked, you should have kept Nero out of this. If you alone could defeat Urizen then I would have never asked for him as well. Besides he's a lot stronger than the first time he faced off against Urizen. It won't be easy but I know he can do it, V said as he approached Dante. Dante picked up the Sparda and placed it on his back, saying, okay, enough talking. It's time to go help out my nephew. I know Urizen has a trick up his sleeves so he's going to need backup. Dante got on the bike and drove away, leaving V staring at his crumbling hand. You get some rest, V, it looks like you're about to kill over, he said. As Dante looked around, he saw no demons, and he was now driving in the direction of the Qliphoth tree. As he continued to drive, Dante remarked, there are really no demons around, they're just going to let me through. That will be the day. Dante had to jump off the bike and confront the demon that had cut it in half after it came from behind him. With the Sparda resting on his shoulder, Dante remarked, is Halloween already here? The demon uttered, Sparda, give it to me. As the demon produced its electrified weapon, Dante remarked, that costume looks a little too big. I think you have better taste than that. Also, you wrecked the kid's bike, so I'm going to have to get him another one so I'll take out my frustrations on you a little bit. The demon charged at Dante and declared, I am Cavalier Angelo and I will end you. The demon threw electric blasts at Dante, who deflected them with his sword and dashed in its direction as their weapons clashed. Jumping back, Dante produced his devil arm Balrog. Check it out. When the demon stumbles back a little, Dante throws a roundhouse kick, which the demon blocks with its sword and then punches Dante as he steps back a little. The gauntlets and greaves begin to glow red as they are set on fire. Dante jumps and gives the demon a vicious axe kick that sends it crashing into the ground after running and sliding beneath its legs and performing a handstand kick that sends it skyward. The demon tries to cut Dante, but he sidesteps it and ducks another one before flipping and hitting the demon with his elbow and finishing it with a punch to the back of its head. Dante lands and gives it an uppercut as it gets up and grabs its legs as he slams it into the ground repeatedly before giving it a spin kick as it falls to the ground. When Dante noticed that the demon was standing up after stumbling for a while, he grabbed the Sparda off his back and struck the demon, who was unable to properly block the blow and knocked off its helmet, landing close to Izuku's wrecked bike and merging with it. When Dante turns to face the demon, he notices lightning comments coming from the bike. He smiles when he notices that Trish is visible through an opening in the demon's chest. As pieces of the demon's armor fly to the bike and fuse with it, Dante begins slashing the creature quickly. The bike then revs up and maneuvers itself around before stopping behind Dante, who caught Trish as she fell out of the demon's body. Dante looked at the demon's ruined body and said to Trish, "Whoa, looks like I took it a bit too far, you okay?" She said, "I've been better, Dante," as he placed her on the ground and pulled out a towel to cover her. "Dante, that demon is..." As Dante mounted the bike, he said, "Shush, don't even consider it, just rest." "Dante, wait," was the call V made while attempting to reach Dante. As Dante drove away, Griffin followed to observe him. "Take care of Trish for me," he said. With a sigh, V took a seat close to Trish and started reading his book while he waited for her to awaken. After a few minutes, she sits up and starts to stir. "So Dante's left," she said. As Trish gazed at him, V remarked, "Yes, he has, and I don't think he can win if he fights Urizen himself again." She looked at V intently before her eyes widened in surprise. "V, What exactly is Urizen? Where did he come from? Urizen is not a demon. I know that for a fact because I'm from the underworld, she said. As V gazed at her, she said, My God, what are you? V closed his book and remarked, It doesn't matter, I'm a shadow of my former self who's trying to gain back everything he nearly threw away. I will tell you the story of my birth, V replied. After so many battles in search of a way to cure himself, Iman's body was reaching its limits, breaking down as he tried to keep his inner demon at bay. But he fought on as he had something that he wanted to do, and that was to return his family, V said as he recalled what had occurred. He was in their childhood home when Virgil took the Yamato out of its sheath and stabbed him in the chest, saying, Heavy chains that does freeze my bones around. As he did so, V recalled being separated as he watched his other body change. He did the only thing that he thought could work in order to remove and defeat his inner demon. He needed to separate his inner demon from himself with the strength of the Yamato, he said. As he looked at Trish to finish his story, V remarked, but he did not foresee the consequences that followed. Only his humanity was separated from him as his inner demon took control of his demonic body as he was reborn once more. When the man and his brother fought a long time ago, he fell to the underworld and was corrupted by Mundus. Even after he was freed from Mundus' control, the corruption still remained. He was able to keep it at bay, but it grew stronger as it fought to take control of his body, and now Nello Angelo has been reborn once more, V stated. You're saying that Urizen is Nello Angelo who has taken control of Virgil's demon half after he failed to separate them with the Yamato? Trish asked with a nod. Looking at V, whose hand was breaking, Trish remarked, So how are you holding up? It looks like you reaching your limit. Yes, I've tried to hold myself together with what little demonic power I have left, but it's fading. In separating my human soul, I've realized the gravity of what I caused, so I need to make this right. If they can defeat him and weaken him, I can merge with him once more and regain control. That's why I came to Dante and Izuku. Only both of them can do this, V said as Trish stood up and her body sparkled before she put on her clothes. Trish and V walked to catch up with Dante, and Trish said, Well, let's go so you can see this through. As he reached his former home, Dante was driving fast through the city and gazing at the photo of his family when he turned around and noticed Griffin standing behind him. Griffin said, there you are, as he soared ahead of Dante. Griffin said, Hey, what's wrong with you? As Dante started to move in the direction of the photo. As he produced the Shattered Rebellion, Dante remarked, Virgil lovingly jammed this through my chest once, activating the demonic power in me. Dante gazed at the sword and remarked, I always wondered, why did my father give me the rebellion? Dante chuckled and Griffin said, Okay, what are you talking about? As he stabbed himself with the rebellion and grunted in agony, Dante remarked, Over the years, I've been stabbed and jabbed by a number of things. But who would have guessed that I'd be stabbed by my own sword? As Griffin hovered over Dante, he said, Have you gone insane? There's a demon to destroy, kill yourself later, and I'll even help. As he drove the sword further into his abdomen, Dante remarked, My father once told us that the Yamato can separate man from devil. So now I wonder what the rebellion. As the rebellion absorbed into Dante's body, it started to glow red. His body also started to glow, and red lightning started to envelop his body as the Sparda was also absorbed. Griffin exclaimed, Whoa, you're absorbing the Sparda. Dante screamed as a wave of red energy burst out of him, panting, and he realized he was in his new form, the Sin Devil Trigger. Dante looked up at the sky and flew off to where Urizen and Izuku were engaged in combat. Throne room. Currently Izuku felt the power the other demon was releasing as he grinned and struggled to stand up when he noticed it hovering in midair, staring at Urizen. Trying to stay upright, Izuku said, It's you, Uncle D. As he fainted, Izuku remarked, I softened him up for you. Kick his ass, I knew you couldn't be killed that easily. Win Dante, win, was Griffin's motto as he flew with Izuku and picked him up, removing him from the impending fight. Before returning his focus to Urizen, Dante glanced at Izuku. His new devil sword, Dante, was a large two-handed weapon with claws running up its length, talons for hand protection, and a red jewel on the pommel. It was primarily composed of a dark substance that resembled solidified lava. Urizen was about to turn to Dante when he brought the crystal before him. Then, as he charged at Urizen, who used the crystal to deflect a Dante slash, Dante's sword glowed orange and split in half. Urizen threw his tentacles at Dante, who effortlessly sliced them apart while spinning in midair and giving Urizen a powerful backhand that caused him to back off a little. Urizen then began shooting light beams at Dante, who deflected them with his sword. Urizen then threw another tentacle at Dante, but Dante caught it and dragged Urizen toward him. cutting him in the shoulder and chest before kicking him in the front to send him flying. Holding his injured chest, Urizen raised one hand to launch a massive fireball at Dante, who remained motionless as it approached him. When the smoke cleared, Urizen was able to spot another wound on his abdomen and fell to his knees in agony as Dante landed and unhooked his trigger. Then, with his sword in a reverse grip, Dante cut the fireball in half and sent an energy slash at Urizen, who was unable to block it as it exploded upon contact. As he approached Urizen, Dante remarked, "You underestimated the child when he fought you, and you made a mistake by not making sure I was dead." As Dante approached Urizen to attack him once more, he said, "All this time and you still don't understand that power isn't everything." However, as the tree started to tremble and rise from the ground, Urizen grinned and turned to face Dante. Urizen stood up and called forth the crystal in front of him, saying, "It is you who does not understand, it has begun." As Urizen absorbed the crystal, Dante saw that it contained the Yamato before the pool of blood rose. Dante followed Urizen through the crystal, but he was gone. Urizen said, "The Qliphoth is revealed in its entirety, this little inconvenience matters not." Inside the tree, when Dante arrived at the location where Izuku and the others were waiting after leaving the throne room, he discovered that Izuku was awake and that his wounds had nearly healed. The others were sitting there, waiting for him to arrive. The woman walked to the van and said, "Well, it looks like you're okay, Dante." When Dante turned around, he saw Trish strolling alongside V, who was sitting down to take a short break because he was breathing heavily. Dante asked V, who was staring at him, "Hey V, where did that garbage god go? What's he after?" When Dante looked up, V remarked, "He's at the top of the Qliphoth." "It's the other way around, Dante. Right now we are in the lowest level of the Qliphoth. Human blood is the source demon's power. The fruit born from the Qliphoth is even more dense than the blood that created it. Its power is unparalleled. Even the almighty Mundus used it to become king of the underworld." Trish told Dante and Izuku, who were both quiet. As he left them, Dante remarked, "Yeah. Well, that's a lovely story and all, but we have to find him." Before Dante put the hat on his head and began dancing, Nico said, "Whoa Dante, hold up, I have something for you." Dante whistled and said, "Speaking of, kid, come here, I got a present for you." Izuku approached him. Izuku was raising his eyebrows at Dante when his bike entered with a new appearance and he heard an engine revving. Izuku looked at his bike and asked, "What happened to my bike?" "Yeah well, it kinda got wrecked when I was fighting this demon, but when I tore into it it merged with you bike and now you have a brand new devil bike," explained Dante to Izuku. Izuku said, "Sweet, anyways, let's go find Urizen and kick his ass," while Dante stopped him by placing a hand on his shoulder. "I think you should sit this one out kid, you've done enough as it is already, so just rest up," said Dante. "I'm not sitting this one out, I'm doing this to settle a score and to get back the Yamato," Izuku told Dante. "You don't understand, the situation has changed kid," said Dante. V approached them and said, "Let him go, Dante. Time is a luxury we can no longer afford. If Urizen eats the fruit, we'll need him there." Dante questioned, "Does that mean you're going to?" "Yes, I have a duty to see this through," V replied. Dante walked to the edge and leapt off, saying, "Well, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go my way and you guys go yours. Cover more ground that way." Izuku followed suit, flying down with Griffin, saying, "Well, let's do this." Using V now, he was flying down with Griffin, who dropped V on the ground and began to fade. V struggled to stand up, growing weaker with each passing moment, and said, "Damn, just a little longer, I must go. I must get to him before he loses." He rose and proceeded through the passage, but as soon as he entered, his familiars were taken away from him, and he collapsed to the ground, exhausted. He looked up to see Malphas standing above him, and he passed out. After a few minutes, V stumbled to his feet and noticed that the tattoos on his body had disappeared. He then proceeded to walk where he could see Malphas talking to herself. "If he reaches the fruit it will all be over. Even Mundus failed to reign the human world, surely we know Nello Angelo will not fail," said Malphas. V got up and said, "Damn, I don't have the strength to handle her. I must get through this somehow." However, he knocked down some rocks by mistake, which caught Malphas' attention. Malphas said, "Ah, an intruder is coming for you," as she made her way over to V. Bang! When Malphas turned around after being struck by a bullet, he saw Izuku approaching him with his gun and triple nunchucks. A few minutes in advance, Izuku descended on his own as he advanced farther before encountering and defeating a few demons. Then, as they entered a cave and came upon a three-headed demon dog chained in front of a huge gate, he bumped into Dante. As they spoke, the demon dog with the 3 heads of fire, ice, and lightning said, "Leave immediately, only kings of the underworld may enter this gate, you shall not pass." Dante gazed at the demon and remarked, "Whoa. Easy there fella. Hey, I remember a stinky little pooch just like you." The demon, growing in rage, uttered the words, "You insult me, foul-scented creature." As the demon started flailing, Izuku remarked, "The only foul-scented thing here is you. I mean, have you smelled yourself lately? It's like you bathe in your own shit all the time." "I think his master has him on a pretty short leash," said Dante. Izuku held his sword and said, "Go on, Uncle D, I'll take this little puppy out for a walk." As it broke the chains and set itself free, King Cerberus declared, "You may have fought our kind in the past, but I am king of the Cerberus tribe. The others you have encountered were weak, but we will feast on your flesh." As he handed the demon to Izuku, Dante remarked, "You're the strongest of the litter, kid. It looks like you're going to need a bigger leash. I'll be on my way, show that puppy who's top dog." Izuku energized his sword and readied himself to battle the demon, saying, "Don't worry, I was planning on making a fur coat and now I've found the perfect one for it." Izuku jumped out of the way as the demon's body erupted in flames and swung its claw at him. Izuku then ran at it, cutting the side and flipping in midair as he kicked it in the face. The demon then changed into lightning as Izuku ran at it, startling him a little because he was unprepared. Izuku swatted the lightning balls away with his sword and teleported over the demon, which tried to shake him off after he stabbed it in the back. Izuku was knocked off it by the demon's electrical shockwave and landed back on the ground before realizing the demon had changed to ice and was encasing the whole area in it. When Izuku realized he was stuck, he started to break it with his frozen feet, but it failed. Izuku then used his Devil Bringer to break the ice by punching the demon with an electrified fist. Izuku ran at full speed, cutting the demon's legs before sliding beneath it and stabbing his sword deep into its abdomen before gutting it. The demon screamed in agony before dying and falling to the ground. The demon was sent back, but Izuku didn't give it a chance to recover. Izuku approached the body as it started to break apart and saw that its soul was glowing brightly. He moved forward and grabbed it as it transformed into a triple nunchuck, check it out online, before starting to test it and discovering that it could also switch between ice, fire, and lightning. As Izuku was heading out to meet Dante, he sensed that V was close by and that there was a demonic presence nearby, which meant that V was in danger. Izuku went to save V, but he ran into Malphas, who was searching for V. In the present, Izuku resisted pulling his gun, saying, "You got to pay attention to your surroundings, sweetheart." Well, Sparda's kin, I was expecting more, but from what I sense within you, you've yet to tap into your true power. You are no match for me," Malphas replied with arrogance. "Don't let my looks fool you. I'm tougher than I look, but if you don't believe me, there's only one way to find out. I kinda want to test out this lovely thing I'm holding," Izuku said as he was getting ready to fight her. As the demon chicken body screamed, Malphas remarked, "I will enjoy this." Izuku looked at the weapon and grinned as Malphas charged at her. Izuku followed suit, and he swung the nunchucks in their ice form, creating a huge wave of ice that struck Malphas and sent her flying. Then, as Izuku looked around to see where she would appear, Malphas opened a portal, went inside, and vanished. A tiny portal appeared behind Izuku, who saw it as the chicken's head came out to impale him, but he ducked and struck it, causing a portion of it to freeze, before it pulled back into the portal and appeared as a hole once more. As it grew slightly longer, Izuku changed it to lightning, creating a lightning-covered tri-bow staff, before he began swinging it and delivering a vicious combo that sent the chicken flying into the wall. Izuku ran at Malphas and struck her with it, temporarily stunned her. Izuku then changed it to fire as he ran at the demon, which caused the devil arm to change to a red glowing bow staff. He spun it and struck the chicken in the jaw before continuing to strike it while jumping into the air and hitting the chicken's head, which was crushed by the force of the impact. Before Izuku killed her with a demonic enhanced shot from his gun, Malphas asked, "How do you have so much power?" When V walked out and flew down with Griffin, who vanished right away, Izuku said, "You can come out now, V." V said, "I guess I owe you one, thank you," before collapsing to his knees as he approached Izuku. Izuku held V and offered him support, saying, "You should go back and rest, V, it looks like you aren't going to last much longer." Izuku nodded as they started to walk in search of Dante. "That I cannot do, I must finish this. This is last request. I beg of you," V said. As the room started to tremble, V remarked, "The truth is I wanted to get back to my family, but I made a mistake that cost me." V nodded, and Izuku remarked, "Looks like Uncle D is already fighting. We have to pick up the pace." A short time later Urizen was bleeding in his new form after consuming the fruit from the Qliphoth, while Dante was standing at the end of the battle when Izuku and V arrived. As he walked with V, Izuku apologized to Uncle D for being late. Izuku and V stood next to Dante, who said, "Don't worry, in just finishing up, you just missed the party, kid." V then began to approach the vanquished Urizen. Izuku asked, "V, what are you doing?" But V didn't respond. As he approached the vanquished Urizen, V remarked, "In the last throes of defeat I see." Before V stopped him and told him he wanted to do it, Dante said, "V, get back, things are about to get messy." V told the demon he was standing on, "Don't try to stop me, you're beaten, it's time I take back what you stole from me, Urizen, or should I say Nello Angelo." Urizen struggled to move but was unable to do so, saying, "No, I will not lose to you or Dante." As he lifted his cane to stab Urizen, V remarked, "Oh, but you have. I am taking back my power and you will fade from existence. While thy branches mix with mine and our roots together join." V uttered as Dante saw something and rushed to stop him, but it was too late. V then drove his cane deep into Urizen, sending Izuku and Dante reeling backwards as a blue light burst into the sky. Izuku noticed a man standing where the light was shining and asked, "Uncle D, what's going on?" Izuku stared at the man in disbelief when he realized he was staring at his father, and Dante remarked, "I should have known. Virgil." Slowly turning around, Virgil grinned as he glanced at Dante and Izuku. As his gaze returned to Izuku, Virgil remarked, "It's been a while, but now I have returned." At the moment, Izuku and Dante were gazing at the resurrected Virgil, who had split himself in two after failing to get rid of Nello Angelo. Now that he has returned, he is observing his brother and son. After a while of staring at Izuku, Virgil moved to the side and took out the book he had read. As V, he grinned a little as the memories of V replayed in his mind so he could evaluate the situation. As he forced Virgil to stop thinking, Dante remarked, "I should have known you were behind this. You know, I thought you'd changed, but I guess I was wrong. You're still a power-hungry jackass, and now I'm going to make you wish you never came back." Dante rushed towards Virgil and leapt to cut him, but Virgil blocked the blow with the sheathed Yamato before thrusting it as he struck Dante, who then grabbed the sheath and pulled it as he flew back and threw it back at Virgil, who backed up slightly because his sword was back in its sheath. When Dante landed next to Izuku, he glared at his brother and Izuku hesitated to move. As he ran at Virgil once more, who teleported in front of him and locked blades with Dante, Dante said, "Kid, stay out of this." Dante tried to gain the upper hand, saying, "Come on Virgil, let's finish this." However, he was taken by surprise when Virgil used his sheath to trip Dante and knock him back, landing him close to Izuku once more. Virgil looked at Dante, who stood up, and said, "Now that you've gotten that off your chest, will you listen to what I have to say now, Dante?" "Okay. I can see I totally let my emotions get the better of me, so explain to us why you did this. Why you attacked your own son and why you, I don't know, tried to take over the human world," Dante asked in a state of rage. Virgil sighed sorrowfully and remarked, "I never wanted any of this to happen, Dante. It wasn't me that did all this. When I got out of the underworld I realized that Mundus corruption still stayed with me, so I suppressed it and held it back, but over the years it grew stronger," said Virgil. When Dante saw the dejected look on Virgil's face, he relaxed to listen to him and asked, "So what happened then?" "When Izuku was born, I was so happy. I saw that I could finally have the life that I threw away once, but nothing lasts forever. A year after he was born, I started hearing voices. It was driving me insane as I tried to ignore it, but they grew louder," Virgil said while cradling his head. "A while after that my body began to deteriorate. I hid it from his mother because I didn't want her to worry about me. It was then he finally revealed himself to me again," said Virgil. Izuku questioned his father, "Who revealed himself to you?" "Nello Angelo. When I was under Mundus control I was a different person and that person was Nello Angelo. I've been keeping him from taking over my body, but I was slowly losing, that's why I left," Virgil stated. "You left to find a way to get rid of him, didn't you?" Izuku responded. "Yes, I did, but nothing I found could get rid of him. It was what led me back to the Yamato. I remembered our father once told us it could separate man from devil, so I came to get the sword from you, but he managed to take control of my body when I saw you," Virgil said while staring at Izuku. Virgil grinned as he took out his sword and used it to open a portal. "You've grown, Izuku, but I see now that you are holding yourself back. You haven't yet tapped into your true power, and I think it's time I do my duty as a father and set you down the right path," he said. "Dante, come with me, we have some catching up to do. In the meantime Izuku will meet us at the top of the tree," Virgil told Dante. Dante inquired, "What happens when he gets there?" That's where we'll fight. Think of this as a test for him. You've gotten this far, now let's see what you can do when you face someone who's more powerful than all the others you've faced, Virgil said as he entered the portal. As Izuku stood there considering his next course of action, Dante said, "Well kid, I'll meet you topside, I'll let the girls know what's going on. When this is over, we're going to destroy this tree, but now you have to face your father and the only advice I can give you is accept who and what you really are." Dante followed Virgil into the portal. With Dante and Virgil, the brothers started talking as they emerged from the portal and stood at the tree's edge. "Do you really think he had what it takes to fight you?" asked Dante. "Yes, I do. I may have not been around for him, but I want to fix that, and right now I can start by helping him accept who he is," said Virgil. "You know, I was surprised when Inko told me about you and her. I gotta say I wasn't expecting the Ice Prince to fall for such a woman like her," said Dante. "She spilled coffee on me when we first met, and when I looked at her I was lost in her emerald green eyes. There was just something about her that I couldn't figure out," Virgil said with a grin. Dante placed his hand on Virgil's shoulder and remarked, "Well, brother, for what it's worth, I'm glad you found happiness after everything that happened to you. And I got stronger from it, and now I have to help Izuku reach his true potential. Something is coming, Dante. I don't know what, but it'll take all three of us to stop it," said Virgil. "We'll be ready. After all, we'll be standing together as a family to defeat it," said Dante. Honk honk. When Nico parked her van and left with Lady and Trish, Virgil and Dante turned around to see it. Dante remarked, "Well, it appears that you received my message." Virgil told them, "Now that you're all here, we just need to wait for our honored guest to arrive." "Whoa, I can't believe I'm standing next to the infamous Virgil the Dark Slayer. I can totally see where Nero gets his looks from," Nico replied. "Well, Virgil, you're looking better and stronger from what I can tell. Your power is equal to Dante's," said Trish. "Yes, it is. This is because of the Qliphoth. When Nello Angelo eat the fruit it gave him more power, so when I became whole again it gave me the Sin Devil trigger, which is the ultimate form of power for a devil," Virgil replied. "From what I can tell I've yet to tap into its true potential since I just got it, but I can feel the raw power of this form," Trish heard Dante say. As Nico entered the van to complete her project for her and Izuku, he said, "Well, why are we all catching up? Let's do something else to pass the time before he shows up." With Izuku, who had just met his father for the first time in his life, was currently experiencing a wide range of emotions as he ascended to the top in order to confront him. Ring ring. When Izuku noticed All Might calling to inquire about the situation, he picked up the phone. All Might inquired, "Young Midoriya, how's everything going on your end?" "Well, it'll all be over soon, All Might. There's just something I have to do before this ends, so don't worry, I'll tell you everything when I'm done here," Izuku replied. "All right, be careful, young Midoriya. We're keeping any demon trying to get out the city at bay, and we're almost done on our end," said the Almighty. Izuku hung up and went on to walk, saying, "Okay, see ya, All Might." Izuku continued to walk until he came across three demons he knew standing in his path. "Hey guys, what are you doing here? I figured since my father became whole again you'd disappear," Izuku replied. Well, the wise guy Nero. If you didn't know we were spawned from your father, Abominable thought. We were the voices he was hearing," said Griffin. "I knew something was off about you guys, but I couldn't figure it out," Izuku stated. Griffin, hovering above the others, launched lightning at Izuku, who deflected it with his sword. "Well, we're merely discarded thought from your father and Nello Angelo, but now we are no longer bound to their consciousness. So we're here now to kill you and Dante on our own free will. It's liberating," Griffin said. As Nightmare screamed and Shadow roared, Griffin uttered, "And kill you we shall, and then we go after Dante and your father." Shadow turned its tail into a long blade and attempted to cut Izuku, but he blocked it with his sword as Griffin swung lightning at him, and Izuku jumped back to avoid being struck. When Nightmare came from behind and punched Izuku, Griffin began shooting a small lightning ball at him, but Izuku deflected it with his hand, causing the ground to crack as he pushed Nightmare away. Izuku flipped it over and blasted Shadow with lightning from his hand after Shadow transformed its upper body into a buzz saw and ran at him. When Griffin noticed that Izuku's defense was down, he struck him with a strong blast that sent him tumbling to the ground. Nightmare then charged at him, but Izuku deflected the blow with his sword. Izuku used his Devil Bringer to shoot light beams at Shadow, then grabbed Nightmare with an ethereal arm and slammed it into the ground before firing at Griffin, who swooped down to attack him. Nightmare tried to dodge, but was hit in the feather as it fell to the ground before struggling to get in the air again. He pushed Nightmare off him, causing it to stumble back as he rolled out of the way as Shadow sent a barrage of blades at him. Nightmare shot a beam from its eye, which Izuku managed to avoid, and then it shot another, more potent beam, which Izuku blocked with his arm as he fought to advance while the beam pushed him back. As he approached Nightmare, Izuku started to push forward as the ground started to crack. He then used his ethereal arm to push it and cut off its hand before leaping to its face and punching it in the eyes. He then channeled his demonic energy to make Nightmare explode from it. Izuku was about to hit Griffin when Shadow appeared from behind and turned its paw into an axe. It swung at Izuku, who ignited his blade and severed Shadow's paw as it roared in agony before it fell to the ground. Griffin, seeing that Izuku had destroyed Nightmare, coated itself with lightning and glee and charged at Izuku full speed, cutting his shoulder slightly. Then, with his back to Griffin, he blasted Izuku and went in for the kill. Izuku then teleported behind it, severed its wing, and caused it to fall to the ground. When Izuku touched down, he discovered that they were hurt and defeated. "You should have known better. I can tell you have a good heart, but if you wanted to test me and compare me to my father, all you had to do was say so," Izuku told Griffin. "Perhaps, but you had a little trouble facing us because you held yourself back. You're going up against someone who's as powerful as Dante. If you don't face him with everything you have, he'll destroy you," said Griffin. "This was you finally, Flight. You wanted to go out with a bang," Izuku stated. "Yes, it's time for your father's nightmares to end. It's been a pleasure working with you, kid. For an annoying pain in the beak, you know how to handle yourself. Godspeed, kid, you're going to need it," Griffin said as Shadow started to fade away. Griffin and Shadow stared at Izuku as he said, "You know it doesn't have to be the end for you guys. I was hoping you'd stick around and help me since you've got no one." "What are you saying, kid? You want both of us to be your familiars?" replied Griffin. "Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's crazy and rare to meet demons who don't want destruction and are willing to protect and fight beside those with the blood of Sparda. So what do you say? Will you join me?" Izuku responded. Shadow roared in agreement as Griffin said, "Well, what's the worst that could happen? Sticking with you sounds like a thrill ride. Okay, kid, you got yourself a deal, we accept." "Cool, so how does this work? Do we shake hands or something?" Izuku responded. Griffin drew a little pentagram, which Izuku then drew around him and Shadow. "Draw this on the ground around me and the kitty cat fast and repeat after me," Griffin said. Griffins told Izuku what to say, saying, "Good, now say this. I, Izuku Nero Midoriya, call upon you Griffin and Shadow to be my servants, to answer my call in time of need and to serve me as my familiars until my time comes or until I release you from my service," Izuku said, cutting his hand and splattering blood on the pentagram, which made it glow. Griffin and Shadow then turned into black streaks and flew to his chest, where a tattoo, the Devil Jin tattoo in Tekken, appeared before the pentagram faded. Izuku said, "Looks like it worked," after he lifted his shirt to reveal the tattoo. Griffin remarked, "Hell yeah it did. Now try summoning us," as Izuku did so and they both materialized. As he proceeded to climb the tree, Izuku remarked, "Well, it looks like it worked very well. Now let's go. We've kept them waiting long enough." A short time later, when Izuku reached the summit, he noticed that everyone was anticipating his arrival. When he stopped, Virgil closed his book, got up, and turned to face his father, who was sitting and reading his book, while Dante was just staring into space. Virgil remarked, "Izuku, you finally arrived." Everyone paused what they were doing to stare at the two as Izuku said, "Well, I ran into some complications but I took care of it." "I can see that, but now you have another complication in the form of me. Do you think you have what it takes to face me?" Virgil responded. Izuku answered resolutely, "If I didn't think I had a chance against you, I wouldn't be here." As he partially unveiled Yamato, Virgil remarked, "I expected nothing less. None of you will interfere with this fight. This is something he has to realize and face himself," Virgil stated to the others. As the fight was about to start, Dante went to stand close to the van and said, "Okay, we'll leave this father-son moment to you two, but don't go overboard." Lady and Trish followed him. As he got ready to battle his father, Izuku drove his sword into the ground and watched as it exploded in flames. "Good, come at me with the intent to kill because that's what you'll need to face me," said Virgil. Izuku lunged at Virgil to cut him, but his sheathed sword stopped him. Virgil then launched a quick attack that Izuku was barely able to block, knocking him back. Virgil called forth blue ethereal swords and hurled them at Izuku as he struggled to regain his balance. Izuku deflected some of them but had to leap away because he was unable to react quickly enough to the others. Virgil mocked him, saying, "Come on, is this all you're capable of?" As he charged at Virgil once more, who was taken aback by the speed, Izuku squinted and activated OFA as green lightning danced around his body. As he held his ground against Izuku's attack, he quickly raised his sword to block. Izuku then swung a barrage of quick slashes, which Virgil deflected with his sheathed sword but was gradually pushed back. Izuku then spun around and struck Virgil with all of his might, sending him flying back in a way that shocked everyone. As he slid on the ground, Virgil stopped and gave Izuku a slight smile. Virgil pulled out his sword and remarked, I'm impressed, that was surprising. It looks like I'll have to start taking you seriously now." As he channeled 30% of OFA and activated his Devil Bringer, Izuku remarked, "I was wondering when you were going to pull out your sword. Looks like I'm going to have to step up my game." After grinning and taking a step forward, Virgil vanished, leaving Izuku standing behind him. Izuku was taken aback by Virgil's quickness and teleported away as quickly as he could. As he braced himself for any more surprises, Izuku thought, "Whoa, that was so fast, I didn't even notice him standing behind me." Virgil then charged at Izuku with a thrust, which Izuku blocked but was thrown back a little by the force and power of the attack. Izuku shook it off and ran at Virgil, who swung sideways and ducked under it, but saw that Izuku was bringing his sword for a downward slash, which he blocked as the ground beneath him cracked. Virgil threw Izuku off him as he delivered his own fast slash, which Izuku could hardly keep up with as he tried to match his father's pace. Izuku then fired lightning from his Devil Bringer, which caused Virgil to jump back before Izuku shot several light beams at him, which Virgil deflected before he realized Izuku had teleported behind him to cut him, but was unsuccessful as Virgil did a quick spin and knocked Izuku back, cutting him slightly on the chest. After glancing at the wound, Izuku turned to face Virgil and used all of his demonic energy and OFA to charge at him at full speed. When he thrust his sword at Virgil, he moved out of his way, and Izuku teleported in front of him and swung at him, but Virgil stopped him before he realized that Izuku's arm was up and he blasted him with lightning at point-blank range, sending Virgil flying back. Izuku didn't give himself a chance to catch his breath before he pressed on and attacked Virgil fiercely. When Dante saw what was happening, he remarked, "Look at him go, he's put Virgil on the defensive." Trish remarked, somewhat taken aback by what she was witnessing, "I never expected this. I knew he was good, but wow, he's taking the fight to Virgil and pushing him back." After spinning upward repeatedly and failing to cut Virgil, Izuku stops spinning and causes an explosion, sending Virgil crashing into the ground. He uses his energy to push himself towards the ground as well, which causes Virgil to roll out of the way and stand up again before Izuku appears in front of him, cuts his leg, and kicks Virgil back. "Now this is something," Virgil said, glancing at Izuku while he chuckled at his bleeding leg. Virgil got to his feet and remarked, "I didn't think you were this strong already. It seems like Dante did a good job of teaching you." Izuku pointed his sword at him and remarked, "I know you're holding back, so take me seriously if you want to see more of what I can do." Virgil's form started to change, and his eyes glowed red. "You're right, if I want to push you," he said, looking at Izuku as he entered his Devil Trigger. DMC4 not Sin DT. "Then I'll have to stop underestimating you and show you the power of a devil. Listen to me, Izuku. Be vigilant, make sure your defense has no gaps, and above all." Izuku steadied himself and saw that Virgil had a cut above his right eye that was bleeding, and he said, "Don't lose focus on me." Then, he pulled his sword and appeared in front of Izuku, slashing with such force that Izuku flew back. Izuku looked at Virgil as he wiped the blood from his eye and thought, "What the hell was that? That wasn't the air trick, that was pure speed." Izuku managed to block Virgil's shot, but it sent him sliding back when he realized he couldn't stop. Izuku tried to stop himself by stabbing his sword into the ground, but Virgil backhanded him and flew at him as he slashed Izuku into the ground. Izuku got up and spat out some blood as he attempted to stand up, but Virgil again cut his side, gave him an uppercut, grabbed his legs, repeatedly slammed him on the ground, and threw him away. "Let's see how you survive against one of my ultimate attacks. This will hurt a lot," Virgil said, drawing his sword rapidly and sheathing it back as Izuku coughed up blood while struggling to stay upright and noticing that Virgil had taken a stance. Before he heard the sound of Virgil completely sheathing his sword, Izuku was getting ready to block but realized nothing was happening. Click. Virgil kept his sword and said, "Judgment cut," and Izuku's entire body was covered in cuts. He looked up at Virgil, who was approaching him as he undid his DT, and fell to his knees, the wounds gushing blood. Virgil approached Izuku and remarked, "You fought well, but I know this is not all you can do. You have yet to master the full power of the Yamato. It is a sword that can cut through anything, even the dimensions themselves." Standing close to the fallen Izuku, Virgil remarked, "Your true power is within you, but you hold yourself back because you're afraid of it, but you shouldn't. Dante looked at Izuku and remarked, "Damn, he really tore into the hymn. What will you do now, kid? Why do you hold yourself back? You can't save anyone if you keep acting this way." Virgil told Izuku, "You're rejecting a part of yourself. It will only do more harm than good. I should know I did the same thing, and so did Dante, but we realized that the part we rejected wasn't bad, it's what makes us who we are, and when we accepted it we became a force to be reckoned with. If you ever face an opponent stronger than the way you are now, everyone under your watch will die." Izuku got to his knees and said, "I'm afraid that I'll lose myself." Izuku stared at Virgil as he said, "In this world, might controls everything. Without strength, without power, how can you protect anything, let alone yourself? But without heart, all that power is meaningless." As Izuku's eyes began to well up with tears, Virgil remarked, "I see it. Born in you is the power to do great things." As the wounds on his back began to heal, Izuku began to recall what he was fighting for and the promise he made to himself to get stronger when he began training with Dante. Izuku screamed, sending Virgil back a little as he looked at his son. Izuku stood up, his eyes glowing with blue energy surrounding him, and as the light faded, everyone covered their eyes to see Izuku in his transformed state, having just achieved his true devil trigger, DMC5. Izuku looked at himself and was shocked at his new appearance and the power he was giving out. Virgil remarked, "Now this is interesting." Dante grinned and noticed the shocked expressions on the faces of the others. "He did it, he finally did it, look at the power he's giving out, damn," he said. "I'm hoping." As he changed, Virgil remarked, "Izuku, you're ready now because our real battle can begin now." Izuku's wings turned into fists as he declared, "I feel like I can take on anyone, let's do this father, I'm going to make you submit." Virgil used his wings to slow himself before he flew at Izuku, who met him in the air as they took the battle of the ground. Izuku then used one of his wings to hit Virgil, who then used the other to grab his leg and throw him away. The two of them flew at each other, creating a shockwave that destroyed the ground as they locked blades. Virgil steadied himself as he sent several swords at Izuku, who then stretched out his wings and fired his own to counter Virgil, who saw an opening and teleported behind Izuku as he cut him on his back, sending Izuku into the ground. Izuku and Virgil were exchanging fast slashes as they matched pace, until Izuku gave Virgil a front kick and followed through with a slash that Virgil ducked under before Izuku gave him an axe kick that sent him to the ground. Izuku ducked under a slash and backflipped, then turned to strike Virgil, who blocked it before Izuku backhanded him away with his wings. Now that the battle was 2-on-1, Virgil landed and created an ethereal version of him. Izuku got up and saw the clone charging at him as he blocked the attack before Virgil came from above as he used his wings to block it and knock both of them away. He then turned to the clone, grabbing it and crushing it with his own ethereal arm. As Virgil stood up, he noticed that Izuku had destroyed his clone and charged at him as they clashed once more. Izuku parried Virgil's blows but was stopped when Virgil ran his blade through Izuku, who screamed in agony. Izuku then grabbed Virgil's hand and butted him on the head as he pulled out the Yamato and stabbed him with it, causing him to fall back and land hard on the ground as his devil trigger faded. As his own metamorphosis subsided before he stood up, Virgil remarked, "Ha ha ha, that was incredible. I've never seen such form of power before, I say this is a draw," he said as he approached Izuku, who was rising. "A draw? You didn't use your other transformation, so I'll take what I can get," Izuku remarked. "You're strong, but you could have had a chance if I had used that. I'm proud of you. You've finally broken out of what was holding you back, and now you can continue to grow stronger," Virgil said, placing his hand on Izuku's shoulder. "That was me fighting with half of everything I have, and you matched me." Dante and the others approached Izuku to congratulate him, saying, "That was incredible, kiddo. I knew you had it in you." As the tree started to tremble, Izuku asked, "So what do we do now?" "It appears that this needs to be resolved once and for all. Cutting the tree from the underworld and sealing the opening with the Yamato is the only way to stop the underworld from continuing to seep into the human world as long as it remains standing," Virgil stated. "That means you'll be stuck in the underworld," Izuku replied. To everyone's surprise, Dante said, "Don't worry, kid, he's not going alone, someone has to keep an eye on him." Everyone agreed with Izuku when he said, "You can't go, we just got you back, and now you're just going to lock yourselves in the underworld." Before approaching Trish, Dante said, "There are other ways out of the underworld, kid. As soon as this is done, we'll find our way out. I've done it before. Baby, I promise I'll be back and then you can yell at me all you want," Dante said, before planting a kiss on her lips. Virgil removed a ring from his neck and handed it to Izuku, saying, "Besides, we have nothing to worry about on this side. You're here and we know you can handle things before we get back." Give this to your mother. Tell her I love her and that I'll see her soon, and here, hold on to this till I get back, Virgil said, passing his book to Izuku. Dante said, well Virgil, let's go, as he leapt off the ledge and changed into his Sin DT. Virgil also jumped and changed into his Sin DT as he and Dante flew into the underworld, saying, I expect you to be stronger when I get back, because we're going to have a rematch. Izuku walked to the van with the others, saying, let's leave, we don't want to be anywhere near this once they cut it down. A short time later, before they noticed the tree falling apart, Izuku and the girls were driving through the city in their van when his phone rang and he picked it up to see that All Might was calling. Young Midoriya, you did it. I can see the tree falling apart form here, good job, said the Almighty. Izuku ended the call by saying, thanks All Might, but the credit goes to my dad and Dante. I'll tell you about it when we get home. It's finally over. This was a crazy ride, but at least I got some material for my project, Nico smiled. What are you working on anyway? You never told me, Izuku responded. Oh, it's a secret, but I'll tell you, it's something for you and me, and if can get more materials I can make enough for everyone else including Ochako, Nico replied. As Izuku went to read his father's book, he said, let's just go home, this has been an exhausting day. A month later, as he saw that Trish had been knocked down, Izuku watched Ochako spar with her in the Dante building he had purchased for Devil May Cry. When he returned, he hung out with her and told her everything about himself, with the exception of OFA, since he needed permission from All Might. She needed some time to process the information, and then she returned to hanging with him and the others, who were training her in case she encountered a demon. Izuku looked up from the spellbook he was reading and asked, so, when do you think Dante coming back? Not sure. Last time this happened it took him 2 months to get out, now go back to studying and practicing the spells, the lady replied. I can't believe he didn't teach about magic, seriously, Izuku responded. As he deflected an Ochako punch, Trish remarked, well, Dante never talks about it, but he and Virgil learned a bit from his mother before she died. He's well versed in it, but he's terrible at teaching that. Demons know a lot about magic. Humans can pick it up, but it takes patience and time. When Ochako and the others are prepared, we will begin teaching them. Additionally, your mother agreed to let you get the tattoos after we spoke with her, the woman said. I still don't see the need for it, I mean I could just keep them on me, Izuku replied. No, the tats will assist you in keeping your weapons in storage and calling upon them as needed. Trish judo flipped Ochako and asked, how do you think Dante summons his own devil arms? He had tattoos on his body for that. Alright, excellent point. Tomorrow, we'll begin with that. As he stood up and entered the ring to soar with them, Izuku remarked, oh, and Ochako, you have to be a little unpredictable and use your flexibility to your advantage. After years of preparation, Izuku's time had finally arrived for him to start his hero studies at UA. It was time to prove his worth to them. Since the Redgrave City incident, Izuku had been studying magic. While waiting for his father and Dante to return from the underworld, he worked hard to master his devil trigger with Ochako, Nico, Kairi, Lady, and Trish. He also worked with his new friends Griffin and Shadow, using them to assist in training Ochako. Right now, Izuku was putting on his uniform while standing in front of a mirror. He has tattoos that enable him to carry his weapons with him wherever he goes and store them. On his back, he had a tattoo of the yin-yang symbol with the kanji for warrior underneath, which he used for his sword. On his right arm, a dragon tattoo extended all the way to his shoulder, wrapping around his arm and ending at his shoulder. Last but not least, he had a tattoo of the kanji for tradition on his left wrist and another of the kanji for power on his left biceps, which he used for his gun and the devil arm of King Cerberus. Nico and Kairi had already left together, and Izuku had just finished getting dressed when he left his room to find his mother, Lady, and Trish waiting for him in the living room. Izuku said, hey mom, what's up? Nothing, it's just that you look really cool, said Inko. Lady said, ooh, are going to be surprised. According to Trish, go knock 'em dead. When Griffin landed on the couch, he said, hold up kid, why aren't we going with you? Let me see, it's because I don't want to freak people out yet, replied Izuku. Griffin sarcastically remarked, oh, and riding a demonic bike to school says what exactly? Good point. Okay, you can come, but you must stay in the tattoo and not come out during class unless I say so. Oh, and for information, the Calvalor isn't freaky, it's a work of art, Izuku said as he made his way toward the entrance. Griffin remarked, you're starting to sound like that psycho. Izuku opened the door and left, saying, okay, I'll see you ladies later, oh, and I'll bring Ochako over to Trish. After putting on his black fingerless gloves and putting on his helmet, Izuku mounted his bike and started to drive to Ua. Izuku pulled out his phone, texted Ochako that he was almost at the school, and slowed at a red light. When Izuku reached the school gate, he noticed a few students staring at the building with wonder. He grinned a little and drove inside, parking his bike, taking off his helmet, and making his way to his designated class, 1A, before Ochako, who was approaching him, called his attention. Ochako stood close to Nero and said, "Hey Nero, what's up?" Ochako nodded, and Izuku remarked, "Nothing much, I'm just trying to get to class 1A, which I assume is also where you're heading." Ochako grinned and said, "Yeah, I'm pretty psyched we're going to be in the same class, it's going to be fun." Izuku scowled as he considered Katsuki and remarked, "I know right. I'm just hoping they didn't put the jackass incarnate in the same class as us, because that will ruin my mood today." "He seems like the arrogant type based on what you told me about him," Ochako remarked, and Izuku nodded. "Oh yeah, I'll come over after school so I can train with Trish," Ochako replied. As he and Ochako continued to make their way to their classroom, Izuku said, "Okay, let's go to class. I assume it's on the top floor." When they got there, they were a little taken aback by the size of the door, which was enormous and marked Class 1A. Ochako looked at the door and said, Do we have giants in the school?" Izuku pushed open the door and was met with a scene that left him speechless. "I suppose it's for all shapes and sizes. Anyways, let's go in," he said. Ochako glanced over Izuku's shoulder to see what was going on, but his expression seemed a little perplexed. The boy with glasses, who Izuku recognized, said, "Will you get your feet off the desk? Don't you think that is disrespectful to all the others that have used them?" "As a matter of fact, I don't think so. What middle school are you from, you cannon fodder?" Katsuki responded. "I'm from Somei Junior High, it's a private school. My name is Tenya Lida," the now named Tenya replied as the boy straightened his glasses and turned to face him. Katsuki smiled sadistically and said, "Somei, huh? Well, aren't you a fucking elite? Looks like I have it to kill you until you fucking die. A justification to murder me until my death. How absurd. You have some nerve and you want to be a hero," Tenya thought, flinching back and staring at Katsuki with a horrified expression. After witnessing the brief exchange, Ochako shook her head incredulously, her face flat. "I can see what you meant now, he's a huge jackass," she said, thinking of all the people like Katsuki who believed that their peculiarities made them superior to everyone else, and she believed that if he wasn't put in his, he would only become worse than he already was. Tenya turned and robotically walked toward Izuku and Ochako after catching the door opening out of the corner of his eye. "Hello. My name is Tenya Lida from Somei." "Yes." Izuku smiled as Tenya shook his hand and said, "My names are Izuku Midoriya. It's nice to meet you." "I already heard you when you were dealing with Asuki over there," Izuku said, reaching out to shake his hand. "He's a bit stiff and uptight," Izuku thought as he looked around the class and noticed a few people. "Yes, I am aware of your identity." As everyone in the classroom turned to stare at Izuku, Tenya declared, "You're the one who scored the highest on the entrance exam. I must give you credit for figuring out the exam's true meaning, which is why you saved that girl." Tenya bowed his head and said, "I hate to admit it, but you are the better of the two of us." "Well, I had no idea what the exam actually meant." Izuku grinned slightly and said, "I did what I believed was right, which was saving her life. I found out when I got my result, it was a bit surprising." They were assessing Izuku because they were unaware of his true power and saw this as an opportunity to test their mettle against him. They grinned expectantly as they looked at him. When Katsuki noticed that Izuku had won with 200 points while he had only scored 79, he became enraged and recalled the altercation he had had with Izuku at their old school, in which Izuku had pushed him against a wall and threatened to make Katsuki regret it if he ever tried to touch him. Smoke trailed from his palm as he glared at Izuku, saying, "I'm going to put you in your place, Deku. Just you wait." A boy with red and white hair looked at Izuku with interest and said, "So he's the one who got first place in the entrance exam. He looks a bit familiar, but I can't place who he looks like." After introducing himself, Izuku was speaking with Tenya and Ochako, and he found that despite his stiffness, Tenya was easy to get along with. As he was speaking with both of them, he turned to face the door because he could feel someone entering. "If you're here looking for friends, do it elsewhere," the man said, pulling out a juice box. "This is the Department of Heroics, so please take your buddy hunting somewhere else," he said, opening the bag to reveal a black-haired man with bloodshot half-lidded eyes, all while wearing a yellow sleeping bag. Izuku stared at the man as he sat down, trying to figure out who he was. "Who the hell is this guy?" Izuku asked himself. With his sleeping bag shrugged off, The man showed off his black long-sleeved shirt, utility belt, and black pants tucked into his boots. He also had goggles on his head and an odd scarf wrapped around his neck several times. "It took you 8 seconds to relax, huh?" the man remarked. "Life is short, kids, and you're all lacking in common sense," and Izuku arched an eyebrow in response. "My name is Shota Aizawa, and I am your homeroom teacher. It's a pleasure to meet you," Aizawa said, his tone not matching his expression, which made the students uncomfortable. He took out blue and white tracksuits from his sleeping bag and said, "Put these on and move on to the PE ground," as he left the classroom, leaving the students speechless. With everything before he looked and saw who their homeroom teacher was. All Might was sitting in his new office going through the files for Class 1A, where Izuku was assigned, and the class he was going to teach Foundation Heroes studies. He perked up as he recalled specifics of his first day at UA. Oh no, Aizawa was taken. They're about to have a rude awakening. I hope he doesn't make young Midoriya use all of his power, but it doesn't really matter. All Might thought to himself, he's going to go all out to show them what he's capable of. I just hope he doesn't get too carried away. PE grounds. A peculiar evaluation. As he and his classmates stood on the enormous PE field, Izuku posed the question. However, what about the ceremony of initiation, or the meeting with the guidance counselor? Ochako inquired. With a menacing gaze, Aizawa said somewhat harshly, "If you want to be heroes, we don't have time for such frivolities." Aizawa's tone sent chills down their spines as she said, "You all know that UA has a reputation for the amount of freedom given to those on campus. Well, the freedom is also given to us teachers." Aizawa pulled out a tablet and threw a ball at Bakugo, saying, "You've done these physical activities in middle school without using your quirks. Softball pitch, standing long jump, 50-meter dash, endurance running, grip strength, etc." Aizawa questioned, "What do you throw the most without your quirk, Bakugo?" According to Katsuki, 76 meters. As Katsuki smiled maniacally, Aizawa said, "Okay, stand in the circle and try using your quirk this time. Anything you do is fine as long as you don't leave the circle, and don't hold back." Before launching the ball with a forceful explosion, Katsuki inhaled deeply while holding the ball in his hand. Everyone's perspiration dropped as Katsuki exclaimed, "Die!" as the ball flew from his grasp. Izuku thought, a future hero, ladies and gentlemen, as he gave Katsuki a deadpan expression. As he displayed his score to them, Aizawa's tablet beeped, 705.9 MTS. Aizawa turned to face her classmates when the girl with the pink skin said, "Wow, that looks like fun." Aizawa glared at them and said menacingly, "Fun? It looks like fun, huh?" With a frightening tone, Aizawa asked, "So you were planning on spending the next 3 years having a good old time? What happened to becoming heroes?" "All right, I have a new rule. The one that gets last place will be expelled from this school instantly," Aizawa responded. Izuku looked at his classmates and saw that they were afraid of what his teacher had said, so he smiled at what he was doing. Izuku thought, "Okay, teach, game on," as his smile broadened slightly, catching Aizawa's attention. Ochako protested, "But this is our first day here," she said. "Even so, that's just unfair. Natural disaster. Massive accident. Egotistical villains. All other kind of disasters can happen when we least expect them, and it's our jobs as heroes to fight all the unfair and return it back to fair. If you were counting on hanging out at McDonald's after school, that too bad. From now on you can expect your stay at UA to be one hardship after another," Aizawa said with a slight grin. As he broke them out of their fear and saw the determined look on their faces, Aizawa said, "Our motto is plus ultra, so you're expected to overcome these hardships and grow stronger from it. Now then, time to kick yourselves into high gear because it's time for you to go beyond," said Aizawa. Tenya was the first to compete in the 50-meter dash, followed by Tsuyu Asui, a girl with a frog-like quirk. Asui finished in 5.57 seconds, but Tenya showed that he was in his element by using the engine on his calves to finish in 3.05 seconds. Ochako came next, using her quirk to lighten her clothing. Her physical training with Izuku, Lady, and Trish helped her finish in 5.58 seconds. A blonde boy named Yuga Aoyama, who finished in 5.51 seconds after shooting himself backwards towards the finish line, came next. He had the ability to fire lasers from his navel. The girl with the pink skin and hair, who was identified as Mina Ashido, came next. Her time of 5.37 seconds demonstrated that, despite her peculiarity, she was physically fit. A girl with black hair in a ponytail, identified as Momo Yayorozu, came next, earning 6.24 seconds. When the go signal went off, Izuku used his air trick to finish in 0.54 seconds, shocking everyone, including Katsuki, who finished in 3.93 seconds. Now it was Izuku and Katsuki's turn to dash. Izuku grinned at the look on everyone's face. Ochako, who already knew how fast he was the only one who wasn't shocked. A six-armed boy named Mezzo Shoji was the first to compete in the grip strength test. He used his strength to lift 550 kg. Next was a boy named Rikido Sato, who gained 315 kilograms by using his strength and eating some sugar. Momo then used her special talent to make a clamp, which allowed her to gain 416 kg. Last but not least, Izuku shocked everyone once more by channeling a little OFA and breaking the machine. A yellow-haired boy who was introduced as Denki Kaminari said, "Seriously, this guy is a monster," appearing somewhat alarmed by Izuku's strength. The upper body challenge came next, and only 3 individuals received high scores. The 3 were Katsuki, who scored 80 on sit-ups and 85 on push-ups. Shoto Todoroki, the boy with the red and white hair, who scored 85 on sit-ups and 90 on push-ups. And Izuku, who exceeded them by scoring 100 on sit-ups and 110 on push-ups before being told to stop because he was getting carried away with the exercise. Asui, Aoyama, and Izuku were the ones who performed exceptionally well in the long jump, which came next. A boy wearing balls on his head, identified as Minoru Mineta, came next, and Izuku performed well in the continuous sideways jump. Finally, they returned to the softball throw, where Momo launched the ball with a cannon as her score reached 1 kilometer. Ochako then received infinity because of her quirk. Izuku's turn to throw finally came. He stood in the circle and channeled a little OFA before he realized that OFA had been cut off. He turned to see his teacher's eyes glowing red as he erased his quirk. Izuku recognized him and remarked, "Now I know why you looked familiar, you're Eraserhead." Izuku questioned, "So why did you erase my quirk?" "I did it because now I want to see your full strength. You've been holding yourself back a bit for the other tests. Now I want to see where you stand, so show me your plus ultra," Aizawa said when his eyes began to dim. As he used both his demonic energy and OFA to their fullest potential, Izuku said, "Okay teach, you want my absolute best, you got it." Green lightning danced around his body, and then a blue aura surrounded it. As he prepared to throw, Izuku's power caused the ground beneath him to crack. He then threw the ball, causing the air to be displaced with a shockwave and dust to kick up, causing everyone to cover their eyes. The others were startled to see Izuku standing in a tiny crater with his hands smoking a little when the dust settled. When Aizawa looked at the score, his eyes widened in surprise at what he saw, and his tablet beeped. 4058.8 MTS. When Aizawa glanced at Izuku, he smiled with a fierce expression on his face. When Izuku noticed that his classmates, including Ochako, were too shocked to comment, he said, "Hey teach. I hope that's plus ultra enough for you." After the test, Aizawa totaled the scores and was ready to display the results on the screen when he interrupted them with a statement. Izuku laughed a little when Aizawa shocked them by saying, "Oh, and by the way, the whole last place gets expelled thing was a lie." As their eyes widened in realization, Izuku said, "Come on guys, think about it." He said that to make sure you gave it your all. It makes sense when you see how hard you had to push yourself. With a gesture toward the screen that displayed the scores, Aizawa said, "Exactly, and now for the scores. 1. Midoriya Izuku 2. Yayorozu Momo 3. Todoroki Shoto 4. Bakugo Katsuki 5. Lita Tenya 6. Uraraka Ochako 7. Fumikage Tokiyami 8. Mezzo Shoji 9. Ojiro Mashirao 10. Kirishima Eijiro 11. Ashido Mina 12. Asui Suyu 13. Sato Rikido 14. Koda Koji 15. Aoyama Yuga 16. Honda Siro 17. Kaminari Denki 18. Jiro Kyoka 19. Toru Hagakure 20. Mineta Minoru. Everyone was shocked by the difference between Izuku's score and everyone else's, but they weren't shocked because he was easily dominating the test. Mineta was relieved that he would not be expelled, but he fainted when he realized he had placed last. When Katsuki realized he was in 4th place, he was glaring at Izuku. "How on earth am I in 4th place? What caused her to finish 2nd? Furthermore, who in the world is Shoto Todoroki?" "Oh no," Katsuki pondered in exasperation. Shoto Todoroki was also observing Izuku with curiosity when he felt his left side begin to heat up. He quickly cooled down while still focusing on Izuku, who was grinning as Ochako spoke to him. "Izuku Midoriya. How fascinating." A short time later Aizawa encountered All Might, who was surreptitiously watching the test, while he was making his way to the teacher's lounge. All Might remarked, "Aizawa, you trickster," as he attracted his attention. "Oh, All Might, it's you. Were you watching the whole thing?" Aizawa responded. "Yes, I was. I'm surprised you didn't expel anyone this time. After all, you expelled an entire class last year because you deemed they had zero potential, so why did you keep this one around?" replied the Almighty. As he gazed at All Might, Aizawa remarked, "I keep them because this year is different. They have potential, simply as that, but out of all of them he's the one that caught my eyes. When I said I was going to expel someone, he didn't even flinch, he took it as a challenge. Out of all of them here, he has way more potential than the rest," said Aizawa. As Aizawa left to go to the lounge, All Might remarked, "You're talking about young Midoriya, aren't you? I guess we can finally agree on something, and that is his raw potential." In the end, Izuku and Ochako were strolling together when Tenya and Momo joined them, curious about how he had discovered Aizawa's trick. "I have to say, Aizawa-sensei really got us there with that ruse. But as you said, Izuku, it was to make sure we did our best," Momo replied. Izuku shocked the others by saying, "It wasn't a ruse. He really would have expelled someone." Ochako inquired, "What do you mean by that?" "He told us he was going to expel someone if they didn't meet his requirement. In other words, he saw that we all had potential. If anyone didn't meet up with what he wanted, he would have kicked them to the curb," Izuku said as the other people started to consider the matter. Izuku arrived at his bike and climbed on with Ochako, heading to train with Trish. "Anyway, this is our stop. We'll see you guys tomorrow. I hope something fun happens," he said. As Izuku drove away to their destination, they bid Tenya and Momo farewell and looked forward to what the following day would bring.
So this was it for today. I will continue the story in next part. Till then, bye bye.